We've reached the 90th round of EV Gaming's Losers Bracket podcast, and once again, I want to thank all of you in the competitive gaming scene for your continued support of our show. We really do appreciate it. We do have an extra special bonus for you this week on the recorded version of our show. Kurt, what do we have lined up, sir?
We actually have an amazing guest. We have Halpin from the Entertainment Consumers Association. He's the president. We'll be giving a somewhat brief interview with him, covering topics. What is the ECA, and they actually recently came out with an esports branch. We'll even talk. They hired Walshy for that. We'll even talk about possibly how you can partner up with the ECA and finding more sponsorship ways for your organization.
Kurt is right. It definitely was a great interview. Stay tuned to listen to it. If you want, it's actually going to be about 2 hours deep into the show. Definitely check it out. Until then, though, let's start the Losers Bracket. Pretty proud to say that it's another milestone that we've reached here on the Losers Bracket podcast. This is actually our 90th episode this week. It's amazing looking back at how far we've come over the past year, almost 2 years now. And we're really glad to be with you once again this week. Joined by my co-hosts, as always, got Jerry, got Asylum, Kurt, Key Hunt is with us as normal. We're going to be joined by Crota again this week, talk a little bit more about BlizzCon. We also got some of the staff members from Random Nade are going to be joining us as well. Really cool new site. You're definitely going to want to check it out. We've got some interesting comments from them about what they're doing with strategizing for team-based gameplay in the future. It's going to be an awesome interview. Stay tuned for that. But first things first, I definitely want to hear how everyone's doing this week. Jerry, Asylum, Kurt, how's everyone doing? Jerry, let's start off with you, man. How are you doing this week?
It's a good week. I think it's been a little bit quiet, which is nice. Had a chance to, I think, decompress after what has been a really crazy October. I don't feel like there's an event that we have to talk about in great detail. I mean, so much has gone on in October. It's November 1st. I look forward to Providence coming up. We've got great show tonight. The guys from Random Nade who started it all. I think a site like that is long overdue, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, I look forward to hearing more from Crota. And Kurt, how are you doing tonight?
I suppose I can't complain.
You can, you do. But I don't think it's going to do any good.
Yeah, it tends not to, at least. But I'm going to keep doing it just in case. Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a hectic week, I would probably say, more than anything. It's been very, very calm as far as tournaments go, but personally, it's just been a busy week. But I know everybody else has had their moments as well. A lot of stuff going on, though, so hopefully we got some good stuff to talk about. Asylum, what's going on in LOL, bud? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Today has been, one of the most chillax days I've had in a while. Today was one of those days where I was actually able to sit back, relax, play some League of Legends, which I haven't actually done in a little while, and then I get to come on to the Losers Bracket and talk with awesome people all the time. So, you know what? Today's been a damn good day. I am very pleased with today.
That's so sweet. Aw. But to be fair, though, I do believe there's going to be some drama that we're going to be talking about from a little later on in the show, in the LOL universe. Am I correct in that, Asylum?
Oh, don't get me started yet.
Oh, it's called a teaser. It's called a teaser. We're getting people all, excited for the topics later on in the show. So, but first things first, I definitely want to invite Crota back. He's here with us, joining us again this week to finish our conversation that we started last week about BlizzCon. So, Crota, please welcome back to the show. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing great this week. Just great to be back on the show. Last week kind of seemed rushed with just the amount of news, so great to come back and ask and answer any questions that you guys may have had about BlizzCon and Blizzard Dota, since everyone seems to really like MOBA games out here.
Yeah, I wanna jump right into this, Crota. Let's not waste any time. You know, we talked about it a little bit. We touched about it last week. You know, you mentioned that, if I remember right from last week, that the line for Blizzard Dota was pretty long. Let's take everybody back there, because I want to talk about your experience with the game and with the crowd and the journalists and everybody that was there.
Well, yeah, the line at first was really short because a lot of people didn't really understand or get the concept of Dota at first. But when people started to say, you know what, you can have 5-on-5 teams, and people started to play with their friends, they started to go through the line a lot. Like, you'd see people after they're done just run around the whole like all the computer systems and try to play again, talk about strategies, talk about what they liked and what they didn't like. And I think it really goes to show how far Blizzard came in revamping their product and making it much cleaner, I think. The games, as I mentioned, were 25 minutes long, really, really fast and straight to the point. And Blizzard decided to do a lot of things that were a little bit different compared to some of the other MOBA games out there.
You also mentioned that there was I guess in a way that, again, we're going to see a lower barrier to entry, which is typical of Blizzard, that the game, in a way, will be a little less complex than some of the others. How do you think it stacks up to some of the other games?
Well, based from what I've seen, like, I can't say how complex it is. I only got to play it around 6 or 7 times, and any League of Legends player will tell you if you try to play any MOBA style game 7 times, you're not going to figure out all the quirks and all the nuances and all the strategies that could really come out. One of the things that I did like about Blizzard's Dota is the fact that you could capture mercenary camps sometime around the 7 to 8 minute mark in the game, and it was it's kind of like that capture the flag style in a lot of first person shooters, where after you clear out a creep camp, you need to sit there for a while, and it goes from neutral onto your side, and then as soon as it spawns to your side, all of your lanes start generating additional stronger creeps. So there's kind of this added element of, I'm going to go after those mercenary camps, not just to get extra minerals or extra gold or whatever to buy stronger items for me. No, I'm going to do this in order to make my team stronger because it's going to benefit everyone. One of the things that they really tried to do in terms of Blizzard Dota is to make sure that there was no all-star on the team. You don't keep track of kills, you don't keep track of assists, you don't keep track of deaths. So there's none of this, like in a pickup game where everyone goes, you know what, I'm going to choose that hero that can get plenty of kill steals, and your team just falls apart. It's really more about balanced play. And Blizzard's really trying to pick it up into a direction where people can pick up the game, and simply enjoy it.
Well, you know what? I'm going to jump in here because I'm getting really excited because you talked about the mercenary camps. Now, what I'm thinking is Blizzard's, maybe their motive on this is trying to throw the traditional Dota-type play, but then kind of throw something in like how Riot Games did with Dominion. I don't know if you're too familiar with that, Crota, but what are your thoughts about that, trying to kind of mix and intermingle the two styles of play into one map?
I really like it. I like the fact that it decentralizes the hero and the need for an all-star on the game. It also gives it a little bit more complexity in, do you guys try to capture the mercenary camps the instant that they're out? Do you take a look at the mercenary camps and go, you know what, as soon as the mercenary camps are up, we know that the other team's going to try to go for it, and instead we're going to go hit the towers, and the towers have ammunition, and we can deplete the tower's ammunition and then easily take down the tower. It really adds another level of complexity that I don't think some of the other LOL or other Dota games out there have, without making the game too complex for someone who's new.
That's really interesting. I'm sad that I didn't get to go to BlizzCon and actually go and look at it, but just from hearing about exactly what they're doing with the game, it just sounds awesome. I mean, how exactly is the ammunition type system for those towers? Do they replenish over time? They do.
They replenish over time, but the fire rate is obviously faster than the replenishment rate. So if early on in a game you decide to bum rush one specific tower or one specific lane, you could clear out that creep wave really quickly. And then after clearing out that creep wave, the tower will start focusing on the creep wave, and it could run out of ammunition. And before other reinforcements get in there, you could get down a tower very, very quickly. But then again, you may lose some of your other towers if they're able to push it very, very hard. So perhaps trying to do a 3-on-2 or having 3 people in the center when they only expect one may work out. So there's going to be a lot of forethought and a lot of different strategies just in the first 3 to 5 minutes, where a lot of players, where a game should be. There shouldn't be too long of a beginning game, a mid game, and an end game. Blizzard really wanted to narrow it down and say action's going to start right from the get-go.
It definitely sounds like this is classic Blizzard here, making something that is infinitely simple, but has a lot of depth to it at the same time, if that makes sense. Very easy to enter into the game for someone brand new. The idea of mercenary camps that spawn additional creeps, very simple concept. Additionally, the ammunition. Yeah, a tower having ammunition, that makes sense. It's going to run out of bullets, but they're going to try to bring more bullets. It all makes sense. But at the same time, the strategy, as you're saying, that's involved in this could be very deep. And yet again, I'm really interested in seeing what the metagame actually is going to bring to the table. This sounds like it could actually be a competitive title. Do we know any sort of details yet as to Blizzard, if they will be trying to support this as a competitive title alongside StarCraft 2? I mean, we had a little bit of a discussion about the way they're going to be distributing this game last week, but Crota, did you hear anything on the BlizzCon floor?
Well, I was fortunate enough to talk to Chris and David Kim personally, and they had basically said, they gave a real PC answer, saying, it's going to be up to the community to see if they want to embrace it as an esport. But for a fact that Blizzard's going to do everything in their power to try and make this an esport. I'm going to drop another bomb here with Blizzard Dota, and in one of the conversations that I had and in some of the panels, they had suggested that there would actually be different maps of Blizzard Dota as well. So you wouldn't always be playing on the one map that you saw in that preview. You could perhaps be playing in Tristram or Core Hall or in Nixia's Lair, and that is going to add another level of complexity where the creeps may be different, the paths may be different in between the forests. And it's going to be very nice to say in a best of 3 series, since the games are only 20-25 minutes, to play on different maps and have different strategies and being able to veto maps as you already see in StarCraft 2.
That's actually really interesting. I'm actually hoping that League of Legends will eventually implement something like that, where you don't necessarily just have to play on Summoner's Rift for 5v5 or for whatever you play with for that particular type of match. They have a new map, in Dominion, but that's a completely different game type. It's not, it's not the same game type. It's more of a capture the point kind of thing. So, I would like to see other games implement it. I do want to transition a little bit away from Blizzard Dota a little bit, though. The topic's really interesting, but I have a question that's, completely off topic, but I just really want to get your opinion because I've asked a few people and people tend to differ. As someone that was at BlizzCon, I'm not sure if you were able, I'm sure you were, able to watch the Blizzard Invitational Finals. What's your opinion on that whole last game phenomenon that was going on between MVP and Nestea? It really interests me how that match played out. I don't think anyone really expected it to go that way. So what are you thinking?
Well, that's opening up a whole new can of worms in Asian culture and in Pride. You saw MVP lost the GSL the night before. Is he going to go into the finals? Is he going to go to 2 finals and lose twice? And I know there's a lot of speculation about whether or not they put on a show or if they threw the game. And and only a very, very small handful of people will know. There's going to be a lot of conspiracies or conspiracy theorists out there saying, "Oh, he totally threw the game." Some players may say, "You know what? The 200 food cap, he had so many minerals. Why did he?" And you can go back and forth on this, and really only 2 or 3 people know the true answer to that. And my opinion is I don't want to share my opinion just because I know I'm going to get my email inbox flooded if it ever gets out there.
You are much smarter than me, because I would immediately share my opinion. So yeah, I mean I agree. It's a subject that is is fairly polarizing either way. I do have another follow up question to that.
Before you go on real quick, Kurt, I was going to say, could you highlight real quick for those of our audience who may not know exactly what the controversy is, what it is, so that everybody's up on the same page? Because unlike the both of you, I probably have something to say about this. So go right ahead.
All right. So what happened was the BlizzCon Invitational got to a grand finals with 2 Korean players. No big surprise. Their names were I Am MVP and I Am Nestea. These players come from the same team, come from the same house, and you pretty much knew going into it that they most likely were going to be sharing the prize money just because they come from the same team. So a lot of people thought that it would be a really interesting show match to begin with, and it would go to the full 7 games. Now, in Game 7, in the crucial Game 7 winner take all, Nestea, I believe, was sitting somewhere around 16,000 resources at one point, where he had mined. It was an east versus west on Shakura's plateau, siege tanks in the middle, and both players were just trying to. Both players were just trying to see if they can get any true engagements going and figure out how they could possibly take the win. And in a rather curious move, Nestea moves in with a whole flock of broodlords, some infestors, and without any air support, and tries to take the center position where I Am MVP is the strongest. You see all of a sudden a counter of 12 to 16 ghosts, massive snipe, massive EMPs, taking down all the energy from all the queens, all the infestors, and this gigantic army goes down in this crazy fashion. And then the GG happens, and people are wondering, wait, you have so many resources, you have larva, why aren't you rebuilding? What's going on? And then people started to come up with theories, as at any time a game does happen like that.
Yeah, it was sort of this whole. I'm not sure if anyone remembers it, but the Idra moment from MLG when he, or one of the many infamous ones where he leaves a game that he was up on, and Day 9 and DJ Week go, "What?" And they look at each other, they go, "What? Is this real life?" Because, I mean, I don't think he threw the game, me personally. I don't think there was any throwing at the game there. But, I mean, aside from that, because I don't even feel like talking about that, but I just wonder what your opinion was on the match. Some people go, it was disgusting to see a Zerg with that many most powerful unit, for one of the Zerg have, that much trouble with pushing into the Terran army. What's your opinion on that? Did you enjoy the match?
I enjoyed the match from an esports point of view because it was entertaining. It was those giant epic battles that everyone likes to saw. Just basically 2 people going at it with incredible skill, trying to one up each other. And I think that's really what esports needs. It needs to be able to look good and look impressive. I mean, during the baseball season, I don't follow baseball too much, but I watch the top 10 defensive plays on ESPN just because I like to see great athleticism. And in the same way, people who don't know much about StarCraft will just look at that and go, I don't know the game, but that was impressive. Tell me more.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it was a great match. Those who haven't watched it needs to go back and watch it. Jerry, I know you got a question for Crota. What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, I have a comment and a question. I'm a firm believer that you sort of have to look at the history of something to sort of determine what happened. And I'll be honest with you, we've been fairly good not to bring up the entire Korean betting scandal that plagued the GSL, that basically discredited a lot of players. So when it comes to thinking that someone may have thrown that match, in my opinion, the match was thrown. And I think that somebody should say that, right? Because I think, it is awfully odd that a person of that caliber plays that way. You take that in perspective of the fact that, look, there is a history in this culture of not always playing to win, but playing for show, playing for other things. And when you play at that level, as we've seen with the betting scandal, it's very possible to do that. Do I think that, do I care if my inbox floods? Fuck no. Send me an email. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to make any friends. But, I think in the end of the day, what you have is you have a situation where it looks awfully suspicious. So, and look, hey, if there wasn't a history of throwing matches and a betting scandal and all other things that preceded this, maybe I would be a little less skeptical. But when you look at it, it is awfully odd. And it is an early GG. And we kind of use the Idra excuse, but that's an Idra's character. I get that. Is that in Nesty's character? That seems a little bit odd to me. But you know what? We won't dwell on it. Some people feel that it was not thrown. I'm just going to come out and say, you wouldn't catch me saying good job. Clearly it looked like the whole thing was fairly staged. But you know what? Like Crota said, if it's entertaining, people watched, good for them. If people enjoyed it, that's fine. But if they did, and I believe they do, it's just something that, goes in my sort of bag of, that's what I think of that player. It affects my opinion, my judgment of that player.
Yeah, that being said, real quick, just to re-comment, Jerry, and just sort of play devil's advocate a little bit, I have to agree with some of the others that are saying that, look, I mean, Nesty had one of the most powerful compositions of Zerg you can have, and he still was not able to push in against MVP's army. Maybe despite all the minerals in the world, he just felt like he could not overcome the type of turtling that MVP had done that match, and that he had let him build up that match. I think the more important question is why he allowed MVP to do that, and for that matter, why MVP allowed Nesty to do that. I mean, they both had overran their side of the map completely. So, but anyway, I don't think the match was necessarily thrown, but I don't blame people for asking the question whatsoever. So,
well, like I said, you're a nice guy. I expect that answer from you. But for me, I'm going to call it how I see it. I don't give a shit if Quantic Media or somebody from IM's like, oh, I don't like your opinion. Well, that's not going to be a first. All right, Crota, back to you. One more question. I know your daughter's teething, and I really appreciate you staying around as long as you have. I have one final question. Since BlizzCon, there has been so much talk about the new units proposed, the change in the metagame. Have you had a chance to digest any of this information or just sort of form your own opinion about a lot of these changes upcoming? If you were to sort of give a final word, obviously nobody really knows. Nobody's actually gotten much of a chance to see how this is going to work. But what are your final thoughts about the changes?
Well, I'll say this. If we were playing Heart of the Swarm and Nesty was going up against MVP and Nesty still GG'd, I would have a stronger inclination that you were correct and that the game was thrown, because Heart of the Swarm addresses so many issues in terms of balance, in terms of siege, that's going to drastically change the metagame. With the units like the Viper, essentially a flying defiler with a hook, the Swarm host with Locust that deals a lot of damage very, very quickly. I expect the metagame to shift really quickly, and all of the professional players to transition to it, because it's just going to be that much better of a game.
So you're going much better of a game, right? That's how you feel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be much better of a game. Some of the mechanics, some of the art still needs to be changed. The Warthound looks like a skinny Thor to me, and I hope it gets changed just a little bit. But and we'll see whether or not you can start warping from low ground up to high ground with pylons once more. I didn't get to ask David whether that was on purpose or if that was a bug in the Heart of the Swarm release that people were testing with.
Gotcha.
Did you? I'm sorry, I kind of lagged out there for a little bit. Did you just mention the warp to the high ground thing? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, I mentioned it, and I wasn't sure if David, I talked to David, but I wasn't aware of that issue until after BlizzCon, since I wasn't playing as Protoss. So I didn't get to ask David whether or not it was on purpose.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I hope it's not on purpose for all the great Cannon Rush ladder people. Poor people.
And one more thing real quick, Crota, I know I said it, Diablo 3, did you get a chance to look at much of Diablo 3?
I did not spend a lot of time playing Diablo 3 because I'm currently in the beta. So if you wanted to ask me questions about Diablo 3, I've played it probably for about 15, 25, or probably closer to 25 hours now. So any question on the table is good.
Well, so much for letting you go right away. Let me ask one. Were you a Diablo 2 fan?
Yes, I was a Diablo 2 fan.
And Diablo 3. If someone out there says, I'm a Diablo 2 fan, I can't wait for Diablo 3, I don't think anybody doubts it's going to be good, but give us a little bit of what you can.
Okay, well, the class or the skill system in Diablo 3 is much, much easier to use. I think all of us remember the crazy antics of having carpal tunnel from trying to spam left click and right click on a mouse and then using the keyboard to switch skills. That is definitely not the case in Diablo 3, so you're not going to rack up your million clicks on your mouse to break it. What they did do is that they changed it so that your left click and your right click do use skills, but you can hold down certain skills so that it will continually attack. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also map to any other skills that you want to use. So if you want 5 to be a potion and then say 3 to be your leap skill on a barbarian that has a stronger cooldown, you can easily transition between one skill to another, as opposed to only having your left click and your right click for 2 skills to use.
That's good to hear, actually. That's really good to hear. Well, I would love to talk Diablo 3 all night, but we got to move along. Crota, I will see you, and we will hear from you again tomorrow night when VV Gaming goes up against Kurt Check 6, you guys, for Wednesday Night StarCraft.
Yeah, buddy. Bring it on, son.
So, Crota, not much downtime in between the next time. We're going to ask you to come on and do something. So we'll see you tomorrow night for Wednesday Night StarCraft. All
right. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Crota.
You too.
You know, Jason, I'm glad you asked him back because I think I could probably have spent a lot more time on Diablo 3, to be honest.
Yeah, I got to be honest. That's definitely
a fan favorite.
Yeah, that's I think the only way I can put it.
It's thinking of Kenny and Voisin on our staff who loves Diablo.
Oh my God,
we're gonna lose him. We're never gonna see him again.
I lost so many hours of my life to Diablo 2 when that game was out. I mean, just doing the things like the Magic Find runs, going and killing Mephisto and seeing what drops, and trying to trade for things in the channels, and I mean with the auction house.
Nerds,
okay, I'm sorry. I'm nerding out. I'll stop.
Diablo 3 nerds. I just have a quick question for the panel that I haven't really heard asked much. What do we think? And I don't know. Like I said, I
already answered it. And ST is a cheater. No, go ahead.
All right, we know Jerry wants to be on Kotaku tomorrow or something for some kind of scandal.
It better not be on Kotaku. That'd be a mistake too. I'm not the guy you want to. There's a good reason I have my own show. Matt. Like, don't ask me on.
Oh my!
You want to hear me tell you how it is? You're gonna make some bullshit excuse up? No, sir.
But no, what do we think? With Heart of the Swarm coming out, I think everyone agrees with Blizzard putting this much work into StarCraft 2 is good. Do we think that they are going to possibly milk this cow a little longer than it should be milked? Do you understand what I mean by that? Do we think that they're going to keep on with these expansions and expanding, that the game's just going to constantly change too much? By chance?
This isn't World of Warcraft here. We're not adding in just pandas. I mean, come on.
That's a good point, though. That's my point exactly. We're not adding pandas. We're adding drastic units that change the entire metagame, entire game, period. So that's my point. Is that if they add new units like this every year and a half, or 2 years, then is it something that we necessarily have to worry about?
So
I don't necessarily think it is, but I'm just probing for a question as far as what you guys think.
Well, here's how I look at it, right? Blizzard Activision Blizzard is a public company, right? So they have shares out on the market, right? So analysts are always asking them, and for those who don't know, they trade as ATVI on NASDAQ. Not saying I own a lot of Blizzard shares, but if you did, that's what they trade as. My point being,
Jared just name dropped a stock market, okay? Or stock.
Just saying.
Come on.
But anyway, if I were a shareholder of Blizzard, fuck yes, milk this cow, right? I invest in you to develop revenue streams. I've said this before. Do you really think, right, that I am as interested? So, will they continue to do well by the StarCraft community? Sure, right? If you really look at it, right, and I mean this sincerely, when you are in a position of power, which Blizzard is, I mean, what are the pros going to do? All quit and what, get real jobs? They fought so hard to make pro gaming their career. So you actually have a lot of room to maneuver, right? And the goal in maneuvering is to get new audiences, grow those revenue streams. So will we see changes? Of course we will. Do I think they will alienate their core audience? No, I don't. Will this patch alienate some people? Of course. You've already heard the comment. A lot of people don't like the change in the metagame. A lot of people complain that we're going to see more spell casting, less melee, so to speak, right? All those things, although true, may or may not make the game better to watch. It may or may not draw in more people. Blizzard has a timed experiment, the way I see it. But whenever you ask a question of a public company, are they going to milk this cow? I don't know. I got 3 words for that: Call of Duty, right? That's if the cow can be milked, Activision has demonstrated how to milk a cow. Yeah. They are a whole dairy farm worth. Matter of fact, they do it better than anybody else. Modern Warfare 3 will do well again, despite the fact that it is the same shit, different box of toothpaste. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I mean, and you're seeing it in the fact that, I mean, they won't even allow you to change your name in StarCraft 2 more than once without some kind of fee, or as it is now, buying a completely new account.
Yeah, or you only get so many name changes. But you know what? We could talk about business strategy all night. Jason, I want to go to our next guest. Let's talk about in-game strategy. Jason, who do we have up next?
All right, Random Nade. If you haven't heard of the site yet, I am assuming with the way things are going right now that you'll be hearing about it rather soon. Well, of course you're going to be hearing about it rather soon. They're on our show, right? Oh, gosh, what am I saying? No, we've got 2 of the staff members from Random Nade joining us tonight. We have both Rick and Mitchell from randomnade.com joining us. Rick, Mitchell, go ahead and say hi. Rick, love to have you say hi first, and then Mitch will get to you as well.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Oh, we're great. Thanks for coming on the show. And Mitch, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing excellent. Glad to be here.
Now, to be fair, Jason, these are more than just staff members. I'm going to start with you, Mitchell. What's your role over at randomnade.com?
I'm currently the director of marketing and one of the co-founders.
There you go, one of the co-founders. And Rick, what about you?
Director of product design and a co-founder.
How many co-founders are there, Rick?
There's one other who is our, CTO, basically, director of development. Gotcha.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, and I'm going to throw this question out there, and either one of you can answer it. One of our staff members, Jade, did a little bit of an interview with you guys, and I appreciate that, where you talked a little bit about how you came up with the idea for Random Nade. And I want to go over that again for our audience who may not be familiar with how the idea started. So how did you guys come up with the idea for Random Nade?
Well, I was actually, as I said in the interview questions, but the listeners don't know, I was actually taking a crap, as as nice as that is. And Rick and I have been gaming together a very long time, actually since Rainbow Six 3 original, playing on the old Team Compete. And we've been gaming on and on and on, and we used to make strategies using either PowerPoint or Photoshop. And I was just sitting down thinking, there's really nothing online where teams can go and all get together and make a strategy and then have the strategy available before matches to be able to help them out. I think a lot of teams don't realize how important it is to have a set strategy before every match that you go into. You just don't want to go into it blind. And so the actual concept came into play when I was on the toilet, and then I went and discussed it with Rick, and Rick and Joe were able to turn Random Nade into something completely different into what it is now, like being able to share strategies and make them public so that you can have the outside view of people you wouldn't normally be able to talk to about things like that, to try and learn maybe different routes or grenade points and things like that. Rick, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a little bit of backstory. I mean, a year ago we launched a blog that was tailored to like game commentaries and first-person shooters and trying to improve gameplay. That's every commentary that we posted was basically tips and tricks. A lot of Halo and Call of Duty stuff. And then a year later, which was April of this year, we sat down and wanted to basically relaunch the blog, which was also called Random Nade at the time. And we wanted to basically make it more community-driven. And that's where, Mitchell had the idea, and we sat down and basically just went big and blew it out to what it is now. So it's kind of where it all happened.
And how has your launch been? Let's talk a little bit about the launch. Tell us what titles you currently support and which of those titles you're getting the most use on. And as you're discussing that, is it what you expected, or are you surprised that certain titles are getting as much strategies being created as others? I'd love to hear that.
Well, as far as titles that we support, we support literally any game because users can upload their own maps if we don't have the game on the site. But we try to have the maps for any popular game. So honestly, our core right now is in first-person shooters. Call of Duty Black Ops is huge, Gears of War 3. But we also we host League of Legends map, and we have strategies created within that too. But I would say that the core of what we do right now, and this is basically because of where Mitchell and I come from, so the people that we know and what we've been marketing it as, it's really taking a foot with first-person shooting games. And honestly, we launched a beta in July, a private beta, so you had to get an invite to join. And a lot of who we worked with were, professional gamers or competitive gamers in first-person shooters games. So we're not really surprised at that. The top game right now is Call of Duty Black Ops, and second is Gears of War 3. Then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So are we surprised by that? No, we kind of expected that because we had the beta in July. But we're hoping to branch out. I mean, we want to see this, for literally any game that works well with overhead maps and strategies being built on top of them, which honestly is almost any competitive game. So,
and as far as you asking how our launch went for our expectations, as Rick said, when we started this about 4 months ago, our goal was to just get about 200 signups for our launch. And not only did we hit that within, what would you say, Rick, the first 2 weeks of us starting before even our beta, but we've hit the thousands mark. We now have thousands of signups, and it's just above and beyond anything we ever thought was going to happen. Word of mouth just kind of caught on, and gamers seem to enjoy this concept, and it definitely seems to be filling a hole that was in the market that people weren't aware of.
And oh, good. I was going to say the reason we launched the beta was basically to see if anyone really gave a shit. Honestly.
No, you're right.
So we launched the beta to see if anyone really cared, and we wanted to get feedback. And like Mitchell said, we were just surprised by how many people were like, wow, this is cool. Let's make it even cooler, So it's been really exciting, and we've seen a lot of good feedback.
Well, they say if you're going to fail fast, and it appears that you did find a niche in the market that has not been filled. I mean, I can recall when we even started VV Gaming, Rainbow Six Vegas and Gears of War, both on the pro circuit. We literally had to, take images of the maps in Photoshop and draw them up, and that's how we created our playbook, way back in 2007. So I think it's really great to see a service like that come up, and for us in VV Gaming, which is the first stop for a lot of people who want to play at the highest competitive level, having those kind of development tools I think are really fantastic. Going back to both of you and sort of founding this, it would be safe to say that this is not your full-time job. It's something you guys both of sort of do on the side. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Gotcha. And the website, for those who don't know, is Random Nade, right? RANDOM, random, and then Nade, NADE.com. And I think that now that you've started this and you're getting success, have you gotten feedback or started saying, you know what? One, we're here to stay, I imagine, since you guys are getting such positive feedback. Where do you go from here? What are the next steps? How do you see yourselves growing this and sort of ramping up the scale?
There's right now we're working really hard on just getting the word out. We're not doing much as far as feature development. We really want to make sure it catches on before we get a little more feedback to know exactly what users want. So what we're trying to do right now is we're working with gaming organizations. We think that if, for instance, VVV Gaming can kind of take hold of it as an example, people will understand the power of strategies in video games. And that's kind of what we're focusing on now. Also, trying to talk with people who have been successful in the industry before, because we want Random Nade to not be a side job, right? And so we've been talking with figureheads in gaming that have created companies, community-driven companies, and have done it well, and trying to get feedback on how we grow this. So right now we're focusing on growth, and from there we'll see what happens. But I'd say that's been what we've been doing currently.
Just to jump in with what Rick's talking about, as you said, Jerry, this is, and as we told the listeners, this is a side project for us, but something that we definitely hope to push into our full-time jobs. We have discussed what we would do if this took over and if somehow we got funding or had enough of a user base to have ads support us and support the site. We definitely have notes upon notes of awesome, like I don't really want to get into them because I don't want to make promises that we can't keep, but notes and notes of awesome development tools that are going to help teams even just above and beyond what anyone could expect.
Yeah,
and a lot of that came from our beta, actually. We had a lot of feedback from some teams saying, oh, it'd be cool if you could do this, it'd be cool if you had this, and a lot of those things we really do want to implement. It's just a matter of time and effort, really.
Well, I know for us inside VV Gaming, in our Gears of War division, we've already put the word out for all of our players to start using Random Nade. We obviously will wait for MLG, Major League Gaming, to release the first version of settings, so I have something a little bit more concrete to draw strategies about. So I expect that once those get released, you're going to see an uptake on the number of Gears type strats that get created. Now, you mentioned right now that Modern Warfare Black Ops is your biggest user base right now. Is that right?
Correct. And we think it has to do a lot with the size of the maps, like the map scale. As you know, Battlefield 3 launched, and they don't have private matches for consoles, which is a big issue. But even for just PCs, Random Nade works well for strategies, but on large-scale maps, Rick and I personally don't feel it works as well as it does for a game like Gears of War or a game like Modern Warfare, where if you look at the maps, you're able to set out your rush strategies or your capture the flag strategies, and they're very easy to follow. Whereas I have seen actually some really good Battlefield 3 strategies, but I just don't feel the same way that I do when it comes to really large maps as opposed to the tight-knit maps that Call of Duty and Gears of War offer.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I'm not realistically, when we talk about competitive gaming, Battlefield just was never viable. You've got too many players, and it's not something that I think would ever have a lot of traction. But obviously, with Modern Warfare 3 releases, as I said about Gears of War, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with the Halo title. And maybe if Counter-Strike Go comes around, I mean, that might be a game that I think obviously strategies are critical on.
Yeah, we've we've actually had someone ask us to add the maps to 1.6. So people want them.
Rick, yes.
Yeah,
Take that, Jerry.
Oh, it was one person, and the person's probably old and near death.
It was probably me. In my sleep, I did it or something.
But yeah,
that actually segues to a great question I have, though. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here a little bit. What I'm sort of trying to get a little bit more personal background with you guys. Like, we know how you started it, why you started it, that kind of thing. What are both of you coming from, and the third person for that matter, coming from a completely console background? Have you been in esports and other games or anything like that? Have any of you came from PC background? Have you came from Counter-Strike, Call of Duty? Where exactly are you from in the community?
Rick, I'll let you start with your gaming background.
Yeah, honestly, 90% of my gaming is console-based, and again, first-person shooters for me. And we say we're in competitive gaming. Mitchell and I, we competed on Team Compete way back. I mean, if you guys probably were around during that time too, so you know what we're talking about. But we never made it to any circuit. We didn't do the tournament thing. We did it basically for fun, If you want to go throwback, my PC gaming experience is entirely focused on Tribes 1. So another great game, by the way. But but yeah, so Mitchell and I, we got together and formed a team on, like I said, Rainbow Six 3 on Xbox. So that's kind of where it all began, and from there, I haven't stepped away from an Xbox.
Yeah, and I'm much the same way. I've been console gaming. The only PC game I ever played for about 3 months was Counter-Strike, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's just then Xbox Live came back because I was 3 months without it. I got right back on it, and by no means am I a fanboy of Xbox or PS3 or PC. I'm just a fan of gaming in general. So anything that I get my hands on, really. If I had a better PC, I'd probably be a PC gamer, to be honest. Just don't have the funds to afford the high quality PCs that you need for some of these games.
You can always go back to your glory days. You can always go back to 1.6. You can play that on a TI 96.
That's a good point, actually. You can play that on my freaking iPhone.
You can play that on your toaster. It's not a big deal, man.
I don't know how we get 1.6 in here. I just can't see this.
And it's still as glorious.
I'm telling you, see? Jerry, look, shut up, Jerry.
Yeah, that's so much good right there. All right, let's talk a little bit about marketing, since you guys said this is really front and center to what you need to do now, which is really grow the user base. Have you guys thought about doing tournaments or any kind of events, or what are some of the avenues as explored as ways to market and spread word, outside of social media and word of mouth?
Well, currently we don't ever plan on becoming a ladder site. We just don't want to have to compete with the, tens and 20s of popular ladder sites that are already out there today. And it puts us in a unique position that way too, whereas we can actually work with any ladder site that we want. Currently we have a limited time partnership with Frag Nation. We were doing a Battlefield 3 tournament with them until it came to be known that you can't do private matches. So we're actually pushing that into Gears of War 3, which Rick and I feel will work way better anyways with Random Nate's software. And then we actually are going to be doing something with Modern Warfare 3 too. We're going to be doing some giveaways with Aim for Victory controllers. They do some really wicked designs, and they're going to do a design of a Random Nate controller both on Xbox and PS3. And they're going to do Modern Warfare 3 controllers, and we're going to be giving those away as well through our social media facets and the site.
Awesome. Have you guys thought, as you said, you really don't want to be in the business of competing with all the leagues and ladders and things like that. And I don't blame you. I think running ladders would be a step away from what your core business is you're building. Have you reached out to any of the big ladders like Game Battles or anything like that and tried to partner or anything like that?
We've only been around for 4 months. I definitely have contacted. I tried to contact MLG. I tried to contact Game Battles, just as I've been trying to contact a lot of the media outlets to try and get some notice for it. You definitely learn. It's not so much what you know or what you have, but who you know. So all the contacts that we can get from anyone. That's why we love doing things like this, because you guys have a vast amount of contacts and are a great organization. it definitely helps us out that way to try and get an in. We actually doing our first ever interview. We got contacts, and that's how we met the guys through Frag Nation, and that's how we formed that limited time partnership with them, which helped us out immensely because I think they have over 50,000 users, and they were able to email out about the tournaments and about our site, and that helped us out a lot. But we definitely are looking forward to partnering with other big sites in the future.
Well, we love to see people be successful, and after the show, we'll get you those contacts so you have some people to reach out to who can definitely evaluate the product and see how it can best fit. I mean, I think very early on, I really liked the idea. As I said, I remember doing a lot of that work, and I think this fills an important niche. And for anybody out there that I think we did it a lot more systematically in VV Gaming when we first started. Now that we're as large as we are, I don't work with an individual team as much as I did back in 2007. So I would not have that kind of time or energy to devote. But for those of you out there who are playing Modern Warfare, are playing Gears of War, this is something you should do. You should use Random Nade, and you should develop your strats and have them set. I cannot stress how important it is for you as a learner to see the strategies that you're executing. Most people use sort of their mind's eye. You've got that imaginary 3D or overhead view of what's going on in the battlefield or where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. But using, I think, software like Random Nade can really reinforce your teammates' learning, especially if you have a new teammate and you have someone who has got to learn strats quick. And this happens a lot in the console world. People have a team change or something happen in between events, and they need to get a player up to speed with how a team plays. And having these overhead maps can be a real critical way in learning. So I encourage everybody who's out there to check it out if you haven't had the chance. Gentlemen, I want to give you guys a chance, and I'm going to start with you, Mitchell. Any shout-outs, any people out there who have been a big help to getting this launched and you want to say thank you to and have been really helpful with you guys getting the word out there?
Oh, and I hope I don't miss anyone too, by the way, and if I do, I'm sorry, because there's been a huge amount of help that we've had. I'd like to thank Team Obey, for one, some of Team Carbon, both Ulite and Cream. They've been a great help from Twitch TV. All of Frag Nation, those guys are great. I can't say enough good things about them and all the help that they've given us. They're amazing. It's an amazing site. I know that we normally played game battles, but I've switched over to Frag Nation for now. It's just you don't run into as many dispute problems over there. It's just a good group of guys. And I know I'm going to be missing people, and I am sorry if I do. Team Fear helped us out at the very beginning as well. Rick, do you know anyone else that I'm missing maybe?
Well, that might be good. I mean, if that's the core of the people that helped out. To those of you who may have helped and got missed, I'm sure on Twitter you can thank them personally and say, whoops, I didn't give you guys a shout out.
Will do.
Is that fraggednation.com or is that frag? How's that?
It's Fragged Nation. I'll FRAGGED and the nation.com.
Gotcha. And you said they've been really helpful in getting the word out to the people that play on their ladders, right?
They've been great at helping us. They actually, some of their developers used to run Team Compete.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I gotcha. Yeah, you guys said you started at the old Team Compete. That's before they tried the comeback tour, I think, a couple times, and both those really didn't work out well, correct?
Yeah, I believe this is a personal thing. I don't know what kind of issues they may have actually run into, but I believe that Team Compete was perhaps a little ahead of its time. They tried to do what MLG is doing now with the Pro Pass, and they actually tried to do that with the Pro League that you had to pay for. I don't know how many years ago that would be now. It's have to be 7 or 8, I think, and it just didn't work out for them, and Game Battles kind of ended up taking their community little by little.
Gotcha. No, I think you're right. I mean, ESCA has had good luck with getting monetizing their model when I think about doing something like that, and you probably are right. Team Compete may have been ahead of its time, and I think, when you have that kind of a site, if anything happens and it goes away, it's really difficult to relaunch that IP or that brand. Rick, I want to give you a chance. Any shout-outs, anything you want to say out there?
Shout-outs. Well, we probably should thank our other co-founder. I don't even know if he's listening right now, but we worked our ass off to get it started. I mean, he's put in hours and hours at night. So, I mean, if we're going to miss anyone, we probably shouldn't miss him. And I guess that's all I got.
Awesome. Rick, where are you from?
Omaha, Nebraska. So
Omaha, Nebraska. Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
People do live out there and have internet and computers, huh?
Yeah, yep, and cornfields behind their house. So
Awesome. And Mitchell, that accent has got to be Canada, right?
Yeah, Toronto, Canada.
Ontario. Are you from Toronto, the city, or just outside?
Just outside, but I say Toronto because no one will know where it's from otherwise.
Gotcha.
If they even know where Toronto is.
Well, geography is not strength for most Americans, unfortunately. So, gentlemen, I want to wish you both the very best. We're probably going to have you back, hopefully, as you guys continue to grow and cool things. And, we're here to help. So just let us know what we can do. Why don't you guys, one more time, put out your website, your Twitter, your Facebook, whatever you guys have out there. Make sure you share with everyone.
Yeah, you got it? Oh, I go. It's randomnade.com. That's random, RANDOM, nade, NADE.com. It's also twitter.com/randomnade, facebook.com/randomnade. You can connect with us there and get the site, sign up, start building strategies, guys.
Personally, I would just like to thank VVV Gaming for everything that they've also done for us. Yeah. Always helping us out with the tweets and obviously bringing us on this show. We're big fans, and it was a great experience. Thank you.
No problem at all. Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you to say the final farewells.
Yes, most definitely, guys. I'm really glad that you were both able to join us tonight. And who knows, maybe we can bring your other co-founder on the show next time you come on, and we can learn a little bit about him as well. Do you think we can make that happen?
Yeah, no, we'll definitely get him involved.
Awesome. Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing what you have in store for us in the future with Random Nade. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really glad, Jason. Again, tonight, I'm happy. I'm kind of like Asylum said it was a chill day. I'm feeling sort of the same way. And Kurt, you got to be happy because there's actually somebody who knows what 1.6 is.
Yeah, hey, look now. Look, Jerry. Don't go there.
What?
Don't go there.
What do you mean?
Wait, you know what? Hold on. You know what? Kurt's mad because the CS:GO beta was postponed. That's
yeah.
What the problem.
Why don't we start talking about the news? Kurt, what happened? What do they? Let me guess. Let me guess. Wait.
Let's hear it. Come on.
No, they probably want to They really want to polish Go, so they're going to delay it. Is that what the story is? What's the story?
The exact story is that the pro feedback they got from Intel Extreme Masters New York, they're basically implementing into the newest version of the beta, which means basically a lot of the feedback that stemmed from Intel Extreme Masters New York, that was directly from the quote unquote pro players from the 1.6 community, was stemming about the recoil system. The recoil system, as many people have said, even the source players that they had interviewed before then said, the recoil was completely off. It's just bonkers. Things like the auto sniper didn't have really much recoil at all, whereas other guns had significant amount of recoil that the pattern couldn't be determined. They were aware of this, and then they felt, according to, if you listen to them at least, they felt that they wanted to fix it before releasing the beta, because if they didn't, they would get shit. So that's the story. Small update to it, though. A few hours after they had said that, they did come in with sort of some new information saying, I'm trying to remember exactly how it was worded. I think the exact wording was they had finished the beta as far as the packaging it up and stuff like that, and that they said today building the final version of what will be the start of the public beta. The beta will start as a subset of the game. So what they were saying is that they've finished the recoil stuff and implementing those things, and then they're ready to release the beta. So fingers crossed. They'll also be releasing only 2 maps. So that will be the original Dust, where they've made some significant changes to the map, supposedly, that, hopefully that I think they're trying to, make it more competitive map, and Dust 2. So that will be the only two maps playable for right now.
So here's my question to you. I think about when recently we've seen id Software do Rage, right? And there was a lot of challenges at launch doing something. Whenever you have a PC developer who decides to do something and include the console, they're generally growing pains, like we saw with Rage. How do you think they will do, Valve as a whole, when it comes to adding the console to this? Has the demonstrations and what's been said so far made everyone pretty confident, or are there still a lot of concerns from inside the community about what having part of this developed for a console, multi-platform release? How does that make them? How does it make the community feel?
Well, I think it definitely makes everyone on edge. I mean, you look at historically speaking, when a game is made for a console, whether it be a game that was originally on the PC like Call of Duty, or whether it be a game that was coming from that was completely started as console. No matter what you're looking at there's always a little bit of growing pains. But the problem with that, with the difference with that with CSGO is that according to them at least, and once again, they're not really speaking to the console community. They're not taking feedback from the console community specifically like they are the pro communities in CS Source and 1.6. And so they're more pointing towards the PC version. What I mean by that is they're not including things like auto aim, any significant amount of auto aim, or anything like that. According to them, at least, it's the exact same game that they would have produced if it wasn't on console. The only difference being is that it's cross-platform. According to them. That's what they say. Now, whether that's necessarily true or not, I don't think any of us are going to know until we actually get the game. We're just not going to know. I'm hoping once the beta comes out, we'll have a little bit more, a better idea of if it's really been what a lot of people call, consoleized. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I don't think the console thing is what we have to worry about. I don't think it playing on console was really going to be that big of a deal. I think the big deal is going to be, is it actually going to, is it a perfect blend enough to pull over the 1.6 community and pull over the Source community? The Source community is going to come anyway. I'm sorry, guys. It's coming anyway. Like, if the game is decent, if the money's there, if the tournament's there, the Source is going to come anyway. 1.6 is going to be a lot harder to pull.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no doubt that the people who already migrated away from 1.6 to a new game, they probably already have it in their DNA to migrate to the new game. So I agree with you. This does put at the end to Source. I think that's true.
But I do want to say something real quick though that I think a lot of people are missing, is that a lot of these pro 1.6 players, like Karn for instance, who is traditionally a Source hater, he was never a big fan. And a bunch of the guys from the 1.6 community have all, most recently especially, been very, very, very open to CSGO. They've been, testing it. Karn flew over to IEM, even though he had no reason to, just to test out CSGO. All that stuff. They've been very open. He's been very public about going, look, we will be more than happy to switch as long as they make a somewhat decent game.
Well, to be honest, though, and this is just from thinking about it, I mean, that that game 1.6 is so dated that, I think that Counter-Strike Go does stand a really good chance of pushing it. I mean, there are going to be some people who may never leave 1.6, but I think that anybody who plays it at the top level, you're not necessarily growing an audience. There are a lot more challenges to people's time now. A lot of games that I could watch. If I'm going to watch 1.6, it's got to look, modern. It should look Nothing like, nothing, whatever comes out now can't look like 1.6 does, to make a long story short. And I think that they have to be open if they're going to be realistic about it being a title that compares with a StarCraft, a League of Legends, and everything else out there.
Well, the pro players, I think, and this is just from listening to Karn and a few of the other guys, I think are, realize that, look, 1.6 might not necessarily be dead. I mean, there are a bunch of teams that have made great, a really decent amount of money out of 1.6 this year. MTW, I think, was one that, made like 30 grand or something like that. I could be wrong about that. I think it was MTW. I forgot which team. But, over the past, few months alone, just from attending a bunch of tournaments and things like that. So, I mean, the game's not necessarily dead, but they understand that in order to see their community keep thriving, to keep going, that we're going to need a new game. It's not, 1.6 cannot be the game 10 years from now.
Of course. I mean, right now, I think what we learned from Crossfire and free-to-play games, there are free-to-play games that look better than Counter-Strike at 1.6, and those free-to-play games are doing really well. So I suspect if Go is marketed right, and it is good, Valve has a huge opportunity to do something really good. The question at the end of the day is...
Why suggest boycotting it on Twitter, Jerry? Come on, fill me in here.
No, you know what? That brings up a good point. That brings up a good point. I was talking about innovation, and I think a couple people came late. I said, you know what? Looking at Go, looking at Modern Warfare 3, and looking at Battlefield 3, I'm not seeing innovation. I think first-person shooters need innovation. Now, does that mean that Counter-Strike Go won't be good for Valve and the Counter-Strike community? It could be good. However, right, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, as far as I see it, the first-person shooter genre needs some innovation, right? It needs something more. We need to require more skill, drive it, push it, do something interesting. And I know you mentioned to me on Twitter, you said, like Blink, and I forget what other game you mentioned. Granted, those games didn't do well, but I do really have Shadowrun in the back of my mind when I think of innovation. I think Shadowrun was ahead of its time. I said it on Twitter, and I really liked what it did. I liked the world it was in. I liked what it did to the moving mechanic. And, for anybody who's ever played the game, I think the gliding, the being able to teleport through walls and ceilings, I mean, there was so many things in that game that were phenomenal and definitely took a lot of skill. But at the end of the day, it suffered from what I think happens to a lot of games that require a lot of skill. If you don't catch on and you don't get enough people pushing toward it, there's just a barrier there because it's too difficult. Why not play something a lot simpler like a Modern Warfare or a Halo? So what I said on Twitter wasn't so much a boycott. I'm just not interested in it. I'm kind of first-person shootered out, so to speak. I'd like to see some real innovation in this space.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the innovation thing. I do. I mean, I had my kicks on it for a while with, like I said, what I brought up was Brink. Brink, to me, was fairly innovative with their movement system. It wasn't a good game. Let me rephrase that. For people that messaged me saying Brink was awful, it was not a good game. I'm talking to you, Asylum. But it doesn't mean it wasn't innovative. It still had some innovative qualities to it. But my thing is a game like CSGO that is specifically, I mean, it's being catered for us, supposedly. If you're listening to Valve, they're doing these huge interviews with people like HLTV.org. They're flying players out. They're inviting them in. They're giving them beta codes. This is catered for us. So to me, to even remotely, turn down them immediately without even thinking about it, it's not the best thing to do. I mean, like I said, I understand if you're looking for something innovative, but hopefully, CSGO can prove you wrong, and then you'll end up buying it anyway.
I want to jump in here real quick because this is just one of those conversations I really want to be a part of. And I think Jerry, when he was saying this on Twitter, honestly was hitting the nail right on the head in that a lot of these console games right now, these first-person shooters, are doing a lot of the same thing. I know Jerry's referred to Call of Duty in the past as toothpaste. There's all different kinds of flavors, but at the end of the day, it's still toothpaste. And we really need to innovate and come up with something different. Of course, Kurt brings up Brink, which, did have some sort of innovation to it. Unfortunately, it ended up being a poor man's Team Fortress 2 that just ended up with horrible AI and just shoddy gameplay the whole way around. To me, what we really need in this first-person shooter arena is something like a Shadowrun, like Jerry was saying, something that's got depth and can really capture the competitive gaming audience, but at the same time is simple. What is going to be the League of Legends or the Blizzard Dota of the first-person shooter arena? That's what we really need. Something that's going to be completely easy to jump into, but deep at the same time. And I guess that becomes a really tough question in what can developers do to make that kind of experience that we can capture both audiences. I mean, do you guys have any ideas? I'd love to hear them if you did.
Well, see, okay, go ahead, Asylum.
No, go ahead. You talk.
Once again, I'm completely biased, but my thing is, like I said, I understand if you want an innovative game for your personal preference, because you're getting tired of, playing and seeing the same games. I understand completely, Modern Warfare being a perfect example for that for me. But my problem is that I still think a Counter-Strike type game is the absolute perfect game for competitive play. And I think it's not necessarily the game that needs to be changed. I think what needs to be changed is how we go about it, how we produce it, how we stream it, how we showcase it. To me, if CSGO is a great game, the teams are going to come for themselves. What I think needs to be done after that is figuring out a way to do what StarCraft has and has had in the sense of creating these stories. To me, that's what CS 1.6 now is missing, and it's what it had before. You look at things like Complexity's Redemption video, where there's a story there. You look at the fact that, there was plenty of rivalries there. To me, the game is not necessarily what needs to be changed. I don't think an innovative game is going to magically make our problems any better. I think a game like 1.6 is fairly easy to understand, that is, or not CS 1.6, I'm sorry, Counter-Strike in general type game, that is easy to understand as long as it is produced correctly, produced differently in ways that can, showcase it to the audience well, and then also be able to pull that character factor, like, Counter-Strike having our quote-unquote Idras or our White Raws. I think it's a game that can really thrive. So,
I could see possibly, but at the same time, is a game like a Counter-Strike going to be able to pull in the casual player? Yes, Counter-Strike's always been a huge staple in the competitive scene, but if we change
but it has pulled in the casual player, though, is my thing. Yes,
okay,
it might have did it 10 years ago,
right?
But it was the casual game. You hear Rick here, who we had on earlier, talking about how, or
Sure.
might have been Mitchell. I'm sorry. Starting with Counter-Strike.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But just real quick, what was the competition?
Right, exactly.
Back then, there wasn't. Now it's a different story. Plus, the console is here. You can't ignore it. Developers aren't ignoring it. So, if there's gonna be stories of people, I have to care about it. There are stories in Crossfire. There are stories in Battlefield, right? I'm thinking about two games that people may not know as much about that's in our core audience. I only know the Crossfire stories because our Crossfire team tells us. If you don't play League of Legends, you may not know the League of Legends story. To be honest, right? To be deadly, if I'm going to be honest, I think 90% of players today, right? People who don't go back, they don't know what the redemption video is, and they could care less what the redemption video is.
To that, I completely
Right.
disagree with.
I'm just telling you the
It's not a
truth,
matter of
right?
caring. Not a matter of caring less. I don't think they know. I do think they care, and I mean, and I have that personal reference. I showed someone that video this weekend, who had met Jason Lake before he had saw the video, and now after he saw the video, he has a complete different perception of everything. His perception of not only Jason Lake, but his perception of everyone else involved in the video, the teams, the game, has completely changed. I think if you showcase it right, you're able to show some people that might not necessarily care now. With that or with things like that, they can be taught to care, basically.
Yeah, but again, taught to care is like making somebody appreciate opera or the theater if they really don't want to. The theater's time has passed, right? Where we are in a different age now. So it is with 1.6. Its time has passed. And you could teach tradition to those people or say, you really need to appreciate 1.6. But again, no offense, but I see 1.6 and the people who talk it all the time. It's almost like somebody trying to tell me, you got your damn video games today, but back in the day with the theater, that was real entertainment. It's the same shit, right? It's that nostalgia that clouds people's judgment to the future, So I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's something that hey, people love the theater. People love all kinds of things that have a long history, 1.6 included. But if you're looking at something that's going to galvanize a large number of people, it's got to be modern. It's got to be something new. That's my cut.
Yeah, and I can agree that it needs to be something modern, but to me, I think CS:GO can still be something that's modern as long as the game's created well.
So
and
biased.
I'm not arguing the fact that it's going to be. I'm arguing the fact that if it's a good game, I still think that it can draw large numbers of people from the modern community. I mean, I thoroughly believe that.
Well, good luck with that. We'll see.
Yeah.
We're going to cover two more things tonight that we have to get to. We should get to. Let's get out a couple quick notes. All the replays are available from MLG Orlando for StarCraft, Halo, and Modern Warfare, minus the beta streams. So if you want to see some good matches, go to MLG.com, take a look. We also know that for those who follow Quake Live, DreamHack Winner is adding it to its lineup, $18,000 on the line. There's another game that just, Jesus Christ, will not die. Holy fucking shit. Kurt, you and Slasher in some old gamer old age home, surrounded by 1.6 videos, Jason Lake sitting like a bobbleheaded retard, drunk off his ass, trying to make everybody watch that damn Redemption video, and Slasher living Quake glory days would be a fucking gaming old age from hell.
You talked in this podcast for 10 minutes about Shadowrun. Dear God, don't talk to me about old games.
Shit.
Okay?
All right. And I noticed, Jason, you pointed out that MLG streamed Uncharted and GoldenEye earlier today.
Yeah.
I got Uncharted. I want to take a look at the multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, with Uncharted, a beta key for another PS3 multiplayer game that I want to take a look at because it may be doing something innovative. But let's talk to two big things. Asylum, I want to bring you in. There is a bit of a controversy in League of Legends regarding Team Dignitas's representing the USA at the World Cyber Games because of one of their players. So let's get everybody caught up on what's going on in League of Legends. And then, Kurt, I'm going to bring you in because I know you're going to have an opinion on this. Asylum, what is the problem with Team Dignitas representing the USA?
Well, I think the problem is right now Kurt's talking too damn much.
Oh.
Hey, look.
Wow.
Look. You can't expect me to stop in the middle of a heated debate and be like, okay, Asylum, your turn.
Okay, you know what? How can we expect Kurt to stop when he's getting all hard over there because we're talking about Counter-Strike? So come on.
Yeah, look, when we go to League of Legends, I'll keep my mouth shut until you call me. But 1.6, that's my domain. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, we'll get on to it. What's up with WCG? There's like Jerry said, there's a huge conflict going on right now. One of the American teams, CDE, led by Team Solomon's Reginald, went up against Dignitas. The game was played. Apparently, CDE won, and Dignitas went to the admins and complained, blah, 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 so they had to play another set. And then they turned around and won it, and now Dignitas is going to go represent the United States at WCG. In my opinion on this whole situation, there's really not a lot that can be done.
Wait, I missed the problem exactly. What is it?
Asylum, you might have missed a little bit there.
Yeah, I got it. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. But the controversy behind it is Reginald from TSM on the team CDE that they went for the U.S. qualifier for basically started an entire controversy over it on solomid.net via video blogs, all that fun stuff, the Riot forums. He blew this whole thing up, and it's gained the attention of the entire League of Legends community, calling out...
And what's the issue? What is he complaining about?
Oh, I was trying to get to that. Okay. He's complaining that the admins for WCG made a poor decision on what call was made to play an additional set in order to determine who was going to the finals. And then he also turned on Matt Marcoux, the esports manager for Riot Games, saying that he lied and tried to cover it up, and just all this complete nonsense. And I was just sitting there thinking, why the hell is this guy doing this? And he's literally putting everybody from WCG, Riot on blast, and it's got the entire community in uproar. And I'm just going to go ahead and shed some light on this. After this entire heated debate, Reginald went on to say, the person that made the administrative decision was underqualified to make said decision about playing another set. That Matt Marcoux straight up lied to the entire community and everybody competing in WCG about what was going on. And yes, there was miscommunication. Matt Marcoux and the people from WCG said, yes, there was a miscommunication between us as far as the rules and stuff. But as far as the decision that was made, the admin, the person contracted by WCG to administrate, made a decision. It was within the rules that all the players had to agree to before entering the tournament. And that's that.
What decision was made?
The decision was made after a member of Team Dignitas went to the admins. I don't know exactly what words were exchanged between them, but after the discussion that they had to play another set of matches to determine the winner.
Here's exactly what happened, just to shed a little light here, because I've unfortunately dealt with this quite a little bit, just because it's kind of, it was hard to miss there for a few days. Exactly what happened. Number one, the original controversy started with the fact that Jat, one of the players from Team Dignitas, had played in two qualifiers, basically. He had played in the WCG Canadian qualifier.
I completely overlooked that.
He had then played in the WCG US qualifier. And if you read the rules in a weird kind of way, the rules make it seem like you're not supposed to be able to play in both the WCG Canada and the WCG USA qualifier. What that technically means, what that rules are actually supposed to mean, is that you can't qualify for WCG USA and WCG Canada at the same time. So you can't be on representing Team Canada and Team USA at the same time, is all the rules are supposed to say. They're supposed to mean. Also, Reginald from TSM made a huge stink about this because Jad had played in both qualifiers. He, completely flipped out. He refused to play the first match to begin with. He just completely refused. He thought they should be that he should be disqualified and removed from the tournament. Blah blah blah. So he was already, before any of this other stuff happened, he was already causing a stir for no apparent reason. He was completely wrong, because even if you take it at the fact that you shouldn't play 2 qualifiers. The rules go also on to say that you count whatever tournament you play in first, whatever qualifier you play in first. Well, he had played in WCG USA first before he played in WCG Canada. So either way, he would not be banned from WCG USA. So it's a completely wrong thing. It was just him not wanting to play his match. Is all it was. And anyone saying difference just lost it. The thing that Asylum was talking about is basically what happened is originally the team CDE, according to their rules, their stating of things, said that that they were only supposed to play one best of 3 set for the grand finals. Now, anybody that's been following WCG forever, number one, knows that it would be that all finals are supposed to be completely best of 3 anyway. So that's neither here nor there. But in the rules, because the rules were stated very weird, because it's the fact that WCG is the first time they've done qualifiers for LOL, the rules were a little weird and a little wonky. So basically, it seemed like they were only supposed to be one set of best of 3. What happened is after they played that one set, Dignitas said, okay, no big deal. They then asked one of the admins for WCG via an email, were we supposed to play 3 sets of best of 3 or 1 set of 3 maps, of 3 games? The admin then responded and said you're supposed to play 3 sets of best of 3. And that was that. But because TSM made this huge stink that they say that was never in the rules, it's never remotely supposed to happen, and they started this huge controversy, and they went on a witch hunt over a guy named Kevin Rosenblatt, who is basically the head admin for WCG, but he works for Esports Services. And they just started this huge stink. Basically, all it was them not wanting to play their match and not wanting to lose, being very, very sore losers, in my opinion. So, anyway, that's the whole rundown of the controversy. It's very long-winded and very stupid for no apparent reason.
This always reminds me of something I love to teach every gamer out there, and that is the rules. You're not going to like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know what the first rule is? Spectators need to have fun. So let me explain to you something. If the rule says if a team is late more than 15 minutes, that team has to forfeit, and the team shows up 5 minutes after that, most everybody's going to make that team play. And if you're the person who gets all fucking pissed off and says, look, the rules say after 15 minutes you have to forfeit, you're going to be a pretty disappointed human being. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants the fucking matches decided by forfeit. If you do, just leave competitive gaming. Just go away. Really? And if somebody says, hey, you have to play more matches and the rules are... just play. Just fucking play. Tap dance for me, Spider. Tap dance. I want to watch matches. I don't want to watch somebody slide through rounds because they got forfeit wins. In fact, if you're a team and you give away forfeit wins, there's a special kind of crucifixion reserved for you. So one, if you are in competitive gaming and you don't get that people want to see matches and you hear my voice, adjust your perception. You don't get wins because of minor technicalities. People want to see top players play. If you watch the NBA, and I'm sure some of you do, and you don't believe that top players get less fouls called on them than lesser players, then you are, as I like to call, a moron. And why is it, statistically, the top players get less fouls called on them? You know why? Because people want to see top players play. Or wait, no. I know. They're just so good they foul less than everybody else. Don't be naive. So, to Reginald out there and to his fans, I think it's important that you put down your keyboard, stop typing, and just stop. You're not helping it for anyone. You're not even doing anybody a service. What you are is that special kind of little bitch that needs a good beating. Because the people you're bitching at have been around this for a really long time. I mean, a really long time. And if they make a fucking call, support it. Play your fucking match. Tap dance for me, Spider. Tap dance. So, good job, Reginald, in doing 3 things. 1, getting banned from the Riot forums. I hope they never let you back in. 2, looking like an ass. But it's going to be hard to find a sponsor. Well, I should take that back. Maybe if League of Legends get bigger, it'll be like StarCraft, and every halfwit will come try to sponsor somebody. But until then, not making friends. And 3, and most importantly, I wonder how your teammates feel about that. I wonder if you're setting the kind of example that are going to make people go, yay, Reginald, way to stick up for your team. You know what the one justice served is here? That's that the better team is going to go to WCG. All right, I'm done. Oh, that fucking pisses me off. Nothing I hate more than when you hear the crying. The rules say that you shouldn't start the match if a match starts after 15 minutes. Look, relax.
And here's one of the worst parts is that I'm not sure if you watched Fuck Slasher today, but they Slasher show on MLG. He had because Slasher is Slasher and he loves the controversy. He had Odie from Dignitas, the owner of Dignitas, as well as Reginald back to back, just sort of sitting there fighting. And Odie's saying, "Look, I've been around this forever. WCG has always been these best of 3 formats where this is not coming from anywhere. This is them saying, look, these are the rules, whether you like it or not." And Reginald just completely insulted the guy multiple times. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't call him an old idiot, or something, because he was just very, very, just disrespectful. I wonder, and here's my question, is that if TSM had an organization backing them, like, a team, whether it be EG or something like that, would they still be able to do this? This kind of disrespect to other teams and other players and other organizations. He's went on a personal witch hunt. I mean, he's asked people to spam to WCG that ESS, to Esports Services, is an awful contract service that shouldn't go through them, which we all know is completely untrue. They've done it for most other tournaments. He's just went on a complete witch hunt for no reason. So,
yeah, I'm not sympathetic to his position at all, right? If players would go into tournaments not looking for forfeits, looking to play, right, they would be much better. Because what happens is that little pussy team that after 15 minutes got all whiny, right, they start playing the match at 25 after, and they're all starting the match all pissed off. This is bullshit. We shouldn't have to play that match. And then they get destroyed, and then they're upset. You know what? Lesson learned, right? Lesson learned. People want to watch matches. If you are looking for a forfeit win, you are a scrub. I get it, but you are a scrub. You'll get a forfeit win if you deserve it and the other team can't play. But if there is a match to be had, right? And I don't mean where the other team has a ringer or they're doing something that, is really not allowed. Play the match. Play the fucking match. All right. That's it on that controversy, I think. Are we good with that? Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
I think I want to get on to the next subject. I think we should talk a little bit about the changes over at Team Liquid. I think that's a pretty big topic that we should definitely hit on before we end the show.
Please don't. Please don't.
Fuck yeah, we will.
No, it's important. It's important. Come on.
Defeature everybody. If you're not important, we got to defeature it.
Fuck you all.
There's a little bit of class going on at Team Liquid all of a sudden.
Rawr. Fuck you. We're Team Liquid.
Occupy Team Liquid.
We can get fucking Idra and Huck. We are the 1%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So So what is this, Kurt? Tell me about Team Liquid cleaning house. Now you have to be one of the anointed in order to get a featured. What's the story here?
One of the anointed, I suppose, is the great way to put it. Yeah, so Team Liquid sort of hit everybody with a brick last night. They did a few featured stream changes, which we originally thought weren't going to be anything that big. They were just going to do it based on they were going to split up a few teams from players and players from organizations and stuff like that. However, it turns out that during this whole thing, they decided they were going to defeature a lot of the player streams from some of the streams that they say are not up to their standards, quote unquote. And the combination of reasons for being defeatured equaled not enough average viewers, not enough activity, or not enough achievements / notability. Some really, really great players were completely removed from the featured stream.
Not possible. If Team Liquid doesn't think you're a great player, then you're not a great player.
Yeah, no, every single one of these players is awful. Vibe, DDE, Karn, this is Jimmy, Namcheer, Ruff, who else? Where else? Spades, Mouse players, Inca, Fargo.
Wow, these are some horrible players you're naming off there. Wow.
I'm telling you, man, they're horrible. I mean, it's just really, really bad. Who else? Response, Maker, Fury. Anyway, also they basically defeatured every organization stream. So basically, a lot of the teams had their own stream, to where players that weren't featured yet or didn't want to be featured, or they had show matches going on in the stream or whatever, they had their own stream. Check Six had one. My organization VVV had one. Complexity, quite a lot of the organizations had one. Team Rain, It's Gosu, every single one of them were defeatured. By the way, for those of you who don't know what featured means, it just means that if you go to teamliquid.net, you'll see on the right-hand side that it lists players that are featured, and then it lists under that the players that are not featured. You have to sort of open them on a new menu. A lot of the times, you have to be featured in order to get a really good amount of people watching your stream. For whatever reason, people don't want to click on that non-featured and look for their player. So yeah, that's basically it. That was sort of the big changes, is that they removed a lot of these features. Their reasons behind removing the organization streams were because they say it didn't draw a lot of viewers to begin with, and according to them, it didn't really allow people to become more of a featured stream under their own stream. So, yeah, Jerry, your thoughts?
Every time somebody tries to force how things are done, I always feel that they end up hurting everyone in the process. Look, if I'm a StarCraft fan, which I am, if I want to look at Huck or Idris stream, I probably have those bookmarked. I'm just going to be honest with you. Not only do I have them bookmarked, I also subscribe to their channel. And when they go live, I get an email. I get a note. Hey, Fuck Knuckle you follow just went live. So I know they're on. But if I know they're not on because I didn't get an email and I'm not subscribed to their channel, and I want to watch someone else play StarCraft, previously a good resource was those featured streams. By defeaturing everyone, what you end up doing is you end up taking the B players, the B plus players, A minus players, and saying, no, you're not good enough to get a featured stream. But maybe I want to watch those people. Maybe I want to scout those people. Maybe I want to know that they're on. Maybe I want to explore other good matches. So I'm not really sure why. I don't think I get it. I mean, I have a solution to this. right? And I think Team Liquid should take a real serious look and do a little research on how users interact with streams, because it seems like they kind of made that decision in a bubble. We want feature to be more special, so we'll cut people out. Okay, what's the value of that, right? And that's what's lacking in their explanation thread. What's the value of doing this? Who does this benefit? And I guess that's my question. Who does this benefit, Kurt? I'm serious. Who do you think I mean, I don't think it makes, a difference for Rhett or Drewby or Idra or whoever they left streaming. I just don't think it makes a difference.
It benefits absolutely no one, and that's the point. And I don't want to rant on it too much, but it benefits absolutely no one. All they're doing, I don't even know why they're doing it. Like, I honestly want to plea with the people at Team Liquid, just plea and just get their why they're doing this. It makes no sense, the fact that you are a community site. You say that you are for the community. Your Brood War site was doing great, but SC2 has made your site into something even more extraordinary than it was. And it's partially because of this community. It's partially because of the organizations that have supported these players. It's partially because of these constant great content and constant great show matches that you're not even supporting anymore, to even be allowed 3 pixels above the where everything else is now. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I would love to know. I'd really love to hear why exactly they're doing this, other than it's not popular enough. Because to me, if you're wanting to make something popular, the best thing to do is to allow it to be popular. And there are plenty of players that have put their livelihoods on the line with trying to get revenue from streams and things like that. And being featured was a big, big part of that. They've worked their ass off to get it. I mean, This Is Jimmy, one of our players, streamed for 3 or 4 months at least nonstop before he got featured. And once he got featured, he's been streaming consistently with commentary and great content and things like that. And it still didn't matter then. They didn't give a fuck. As long as as he wasn't pulling those 1,000 numbers like Idra, they didn't care. And it really just aggravates me that what is blinded everyone else as supposed to be a community site is really just, in my opinion, hurting the community. So yeah, my rant.
No, I agree with you. I mean, to me, right, my solution, that's going to piss people off too. 1, Team Liquid needs competition. And if we can't get competition in Team Liquid, then let's get somebody like Major League Gaming to go in there and buy it so that it's run right? Because I don't have, for one, the site's about 9 million years old. And I'm sure some people like that 4chan feel to it, because there's not it loads quick, because it's 90 years old. That's fine. But I think, right, that to have that narrow of a focus, you just lost credibility in my eyes. I mean, I could care less if our streams are featured. I don't give a shit, right? Team Liquid doesn't pay my bills. But for the position that they have, for the opportunities that they could provide up-and-coming players, and the respect that they could show all the organizations who you so rightfully pointed out contribute to make sure these players can go to events, right? What does it hurt? Really?
Yeah, and that's my thing. I just don't understand it. I wish someone would explain it to me. And maybe if they have a particular reason that they're not letting people know about, please come out with it, because I'd be more than happy to hear it. But I just don't, as of right now, as of what we know, which is all they're saying is, we don't like it, which is essentially what they're saying. It just isn't good enough of an explanation to warrant basically removing, all of these great players. I mean, players like, that have gotten, I mean, like I said, I hate to keep bringing up This Is Jimmy, but Jimmy's been to every single MLG event there ever was for StarCraft 2 so far. And he's done consistently well. And, to remove his stream after him putting himself on the line, and, he quit his job for a while to do StarCraft full time, it hurts players like that. And I know you have some players in BBV that have done the same thing. So it's like, to completely take away one of their only sources of income, all because you don't want to allow them a few pixels higher on your web page. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, for us, I think it hurts Titan, who's worked very hard to do what he does, and I think Titan's a great player. Ruff always streamed in our stream, the VV stream, which they took away, and Ruff is very entertaining, right? Wednesday Night StarCraft. I mean, Ruff is great to watch.
Ruff was doing commentary on all his matches today.
Absolutely, he's great. He has very off the wall approaches, but they're very much based in numbers, and many players learn a lot watching Ruff. And when you take that away, I don't know, you tell me that you're focused, you don't get it. It's like something's wrong. You know what? Fuck it. I'll just call it another conspiracy. This is what they want. What Team Liquid wants, right, is they want to keep it small. And I can understand why. Plus, maybe they want to perpetuate their Rent-A-Korean program they have going on, I hear there are a few Koreans up for rent again that left their team. Changing the subject real quick, Kurt. Isn't that true?
That is true. I think Sleep is one of them who left Slayers, which to me is amazing. Anybody that leaves Slayers, I think, is enough to call out. And also, I think Czech, I think is his name, from Czech Prime, from the
Czech Prime, Sleep. You're right. Didn't TT1 leave Fnatic too?
Yep, TT1 left Fnatic. I guess left being the operative word there, maybe, but yeah, I mean, TT1 hasn't really been performing that well. So I mean, people can say that he left. Some people say that he was fired. Some people say that it was amicable, but so yeah, quite a few players that are sort of on the market, I guess.
So why do you think TT1 got dropped?
Honestly, my guess would be Fnatic just couldn't stand it anymore. To be honest, I mean, TT1 just hasn't been performing. I mean, he's been losing and losing and losing and losing, and Fnatic is not known for taking losing very well.
So they don't have it in control.
No. Well, they don't want to have it. Well, I mean, if TT1, wore his gunner glasses all the time and was walking around and did Kingston HyperX commercials all the time, then maybe maybe they would want to keep him, but he's just a player. He's not a marketing icon like in Control.
Gotcha. I gotcha. So yeah, I mean, so with Czech and Sleep available, organizations that want to rent a Korean have another opportunity.
Rent a Korean. I wish we could find a way to fit that into Rent a Cop.
Again, it humors me. It really does. It humors me. But we'll see. You know what also humors me? Have you ever wondered what do esports players do when they're done with their career?
No, never worked.
I'm just okay. So here's my question, right? So
No, I definitely have.
I mean, so I don't know. We could pick anybody. Idra, Huck. I don't know. We could pick anybody.
Trip from 1.6. How about that?
Or one of those people. But I mean, what do they do when they're done, right? I mean, I'm just maybe they get picked up and they work inside the industry, but they clearly are not going to college, right? They're clearly not. Earning a 401k or anything going for retirement. So I don't know. I mean, my question is, what do you think? Do you ever wonder?
This is an obvious
answer
here, man. They become commentators for the bustling esports community of the game they're playing, correct?
I don't know who commentates 1.6 matches.
Well, listen. Oh, that was a low blow.
Sorry.
That was a low blow. To be honest, I mean, I'm not sure if this is the answer you're exactly looking for, but historically speaking, there's been a lot of, at least the top players have really went on to do some great things within the gaming community. I mean, you look at you look at players like Moto. Moto works for, I think, the company that develops Guild Wars now. Either Guild Wars or the Star Wars game that's coming out. I forgot which. One of the two. And he does like marketing for them. You look
I
at.
think he works for ArenaNet. I think it's Guild Wars. I think you're right.
Yeah.
You're right the first time. Yeah, it's not. It's not BioWare. It's not. No, it is. It's ArenaNet. You're right.
Yeah, you look at people like Mark Dalvin, who went on to, I think, with he works with FunkPad, or I forgot, some mousepad company anyway, and he does heavy marketing over there. I mean, there's been a lot of players that have went on to do some pretty great things, but I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the majority either.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, that's just something that I think we should think about. Now, Jason, it's my understanding that we have another special guest that's going to be edited into the show. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell everybody about that? Because we really should wrap up, because we obviously are going to have a long episode with one more. So I'll give it to you, Jason.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tomorrow night we actually have a great interview that's scheduled. We will be recording with Hal, who actually is from the ECA. So we're going to be talking about basically things like what gamers can do with voting and how to get involved with petitions. And it's going to be a really interesting interview. I definitely want everyone that's tuning in right now on the live stream to check out the recorded version of our show this week, because it will actually feature a little bit more content than even what we've brought to you tonight as well. So it's going to be good. I hope you tune in. And actually, we have another really awesome guest planned for next week as well. We got a pretty awesome show planned. Do we want to spoil it now, or do we want to keep everyone in the dark, Jerry? It's up to you. What do you think?
Well,
I thought Jerry had ran away from the.
Nice covering, though. I was just thinking.
I thought with all this Counter-Strike talk, he had just killed himself.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually was thinking about my outro, what I was going to say, and it was about Counter-Strike. So your instincts are right. But I mean, I don't want to say much about it, because you're going to be bringing it into the show. So for those of you listening, we will put a time marker when we post this show on our forums. So if you want to catch the interview with Hal Halpin from the ECA, learn a little bit about what they're doing with esports and what their plans are and how you can get involved politically. There are things out there like the anti-streaming law and things like that they work hard to inform people and make sure that we can keep doing what we're doing. So I think that'll be a good interview. With that being said, Jason, I think it's time to wrap it up, and you can save my goodbyes for last. That way I can actually get the final word in with Kurt in the room.
I like that, and I like how Jerry basically completely avoided that question from before, so that's good. I like it.
That I avoided?
Do we spoil the guest for next week, or do we keep people in the dark?
Yeah, I guess I do want to keep people in the dark, but no, for those of you that don't know, next week, David Ting from IPL will be joining us. So that'll be a really good show as we talk about what IPL has going on, what their plans are for IPL 4. A little bit of controversy to see, what IPL and Major League Gaming, how they're juxtaposition, things like that. So it'll be a really good interview. I'll probably challenge David a little bit about his decision to use the casino as a backdrop for these types of events, but it should make for good conversation. So I look forward to that next week. So there, I did not circuit, looked it right in the eye and said, you know what, you're a rent-a-Korean. No, I looked it right in the eye and I said, God, 1.6 sucks. No, that's not it either.
Hey.
Away.
Wow. There's just so many inside jokes here at the end of the night. What's going on? Poor Kurt, he's just taking the abuse. But alas, we want to thank the people that do not abuse us, the people that are always here on the stream every week. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Thank you to VVV sponsors, SteelSeries Gamer Grub, Control Freak, and also a big shout out to Power Glove for supplying the music you hear each and every week on the Losers Bracket. Another big shout out to the entire competitive gaming community for your feedback and support. Of course, that's what drives us. It's what keeps us going. If you do have any suggestions, comments, concerns, we definitely want to hear them. You can email us at thelosersbracket@vvv-gaming.com, or you can also tweet us us over on Twitter. Just check out @Losers Bracket. That's where you'll find us. Additionally, if you want to find our show on the internet, it's vvgaming.podbean.com for the website. You can also get us on iTunes. Just search for VVV Gaming. We'll pop right up. So for me, I want to say thank you once again to everybody that tuned in on the stream this week. We had a couple of the familiar faces. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you all back here next week for David Ting. That's going to be a pretty amazing interview in my mind. Kurt, you're up next. Take it away, sir. Shout-outs.
Oh, I was hoping you wait till after Jerry so I could at least retort to his rant. But no, just a quick shout-out. Shout-out to the number one. Let's go ahead and shout-out to the regulars in the chat. I try to do this every week. Ori D and JH and Envy in there now. I see in there Rocket Biscuit. All you guys, please continue to support and come for the live show. Shout out to all the guys over at Check Six. Shout out to Zach, Ben, Rob, Evan, Mike, all the guys over there, Fuji. Yeah, that's about it. And you can follow me at Ian Keyhunt on Twitter. All right, Asylum, you're up next, bud. Go ahead.
First off, I'll shout out good old Check Six, because we're going up against you tomorrow night, Wednesday night StarCraft. Good luck, have fun. Of course, also the regular viewers, thank you guys again for showing up tonight. It's always a pleasure to read your chat during our conversations, see what you guys think. It helps us to, it helps us figure out exactly what you guys are thinking and how we're doing also. You can follow me at VVV_Asylum there on Twitter. And Jerry, I'm going to hand it off to you.
That long pause is intended. I think I want to give a shout out this week to people who are often not appreciated. People like the people who used to do old-fashioned radio shows. Do you remember like the Shadow Knows and Superman and H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds? You know, those guys who used to get on the radio and they used to do those old radio broadcasts. I want to give a shout out to them. And to their fans. And with them, I want to give a shout out to the people who liked 1.6 and still talk about it to this day. And I want to also give a shout out to the people who still talk and watch Quake. Somewhere in the world, there are people who don't have the money for good PCs, and games like Quake and 1.6 keep those people gaming. And that warms my heart. It really does. So a shout out to all those people who still have a passion for old nostalgic things that, although way past their prime, you're still willing to dust off, put a new coat of paint on it, and put it above your fireplace mantle. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. With that, I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors, SteelSeries, Control Freak, and Gamer Grub. I want to thank everybody from the VV Gaming community. The new website will be coming out. We'll start testing the beta tomorrow, so still going for that VVV 11/11/11 date. That's where we're going to plan it. Although most of us will be playing Skyrim, I know, but we should have a new site for us to share our enjoyment of that game. I also want to give a shout out to Spectral and Doomhammer, who are in Korea right now, representing the United States for the Code F event. I think that's fantastic. Sure, they're having a good time. So I look forward to interviewing Hal Halpin tomorrow, and I thank you all again for your time. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much once again for tuning in this week. You can follow Jerry over on Twitter. It's at Lord Jareth, and of course myself at VVV Paradise. We look forward to continuing the talk with you on Twitter. So if you have any feedback, please send it over to us. With that being said, tune into the recorded episode tomorrow when it gets posted so you can hear the interview that we have planned with Hal from the ECA. And until next week, guys, with the David Ting interview on the way, take care. We'll see you quite soon back here. Same time next week, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, have a great night. See you soon. As a bonus for episode 90, we actually have another interview scheduled tonight, and we are joined by Hal Halpin, who, we're going to get to know a little bit more about him right now. Hal, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for those that might not know who exactly you are, let's give them a little bit of background. Who is Hal Halpin?
I am the president and founder of the Entertainment Consumers Association, which is a nonprofit membership organization that represents gamers in the U.S. and Canada.
Oh, now to be fair, that's there's a little bit more to you than just that. Give us a little bit of information on your background, what you've done with video gaming in the past, and what brought you to doing the ECA today. And afterwards, if you could give us a little bit of information, what is the ECA?
Sure. Let's see, I think I've been in the business for 17 or 18 years now, and prior to the Entertainment Consumers Association, I ran the Retail Trade Association that represents all the major merchants in the United States. Their new name is now the Entertainment Merchants Association. Prior to that, it was called the Interactive Entertainment Merchants Association. And for 9 years, I ran that association along with some of the colleagues that are helping me run ECA. We tackled all sorts of things. Not as much legislation other than the really big ones with violence in video games. And we handled that at the state level as well, alongside the Entertainment Software Association. The ECA was started primarily because during one of the board meetings that we were having with the retailers, we spent a good majority of the meeting talking about consumer issues. And following that, I realized that developers are really well covered by their association, publishers are by theirs, and the consumers really were the only group that didn't have any representation. And so that was the impetus for ECA.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, because I'm just fascinated by what you do, because you've gone basically from the business to business side of things, coming into sort of a business to consumer, which I always think is a horribly rough animal. Talk a little bit about the transition from working primarily in a B2B setting, coming onto this, and now working B2C. What are the unique challenges, trying to get gamers to be aware of what is impacting them?
Well, probably the short answer is I went from having a board and representation of about 20 retailers and 20 bosses to having about 55 million. So that comes with its own complications. The transition was kind of shocking, actually. I was on the B2B side, as you said, for both a media company, a publishing company, and also for the trade association. And coming to the consumer side is just wholly different, and a transition that was just surprising in lots of different ways. Many of them good, but some of them were just kind of overwhelming.
And what would you say for where the organization started to where it is now? How has that journey been? Can you talk a little bit about how the ECA started and where it is today as far as membership and goals? Have the goals changed since inception, or has that remained fairly constant with new challenges? I'd love to hear how it started to where it is now.
Sure. It started off, we kind of had a leg up because a lot of our staff were on the B2B side, as you said. And so we had people that were running consumer affairs and government affairs for the ESA who came over. Our marketing folks came over, myself. And so we really had a lot of the infrastructure already in place and relationships. And then we leveraged relationships that we had with the publishers, retailers, and other gaming companies in order to be able to provide benefits and discounts right away that normally would be years in the making. The challenges for growing membership, it's difficult to communicate such a large message really effectively. And so I think we've learned lots of lessons over the years about how to get the word out and do so in such a way that's not overwhelming. So we went from 0 to, I think the latest announcement we made was right around 750,000 in what seems like a pretty fast period of time.
So right now your membership base is about 750,000?
Yeah, it's a little higher, but I think our last announcement was that.
And primarily, if I understand correctly, the ECA, pretty much a consumer advocacy group. That would be fair characterization, correct?
Yeah, there's really two silos to it. The side of government affairs, government relations, and advocacy generally on behalf of gamers and consumers. And then the other side is the benefits and discounts portion. And we often find that people are drawn to the association primarily for one or the other, but not often both, because, again, it's part of that messaging to make sure that everyone understands all the services that we provide.
And you're organized in chapters, and those chapters are basically, for the most part, not all, those are geographic, correct?
Most of them, almost all of them, are geographic, and then we have a few virtual chapters that exist either in cyberspace or sometimes inside games like Second Life and I think World of Warcraft.
Awesome. That's really interesting. So both Second Life and World of Warcraft themselves have virtual chapters of the ECA. That's right?
Yeah, the Second Life chapter I know for certain is a chapter. The World of Warcraft one I had heard after we made an announcement about a month ago that they're sort of loosely organized. There's no chapter president yet. There's lots of clans that are all supportive, and they talk about our issues and try and get the word out.
And I know you also just launched one with an esports focus, and we're going to get to that. I want to talk a little bit right now about some of the issues before we get to the esports focus that you find to be, I think, the most critical and probably the most important to gamers, because that probably is going to drive that side of it, at least for those who are interested in getting involved. What are some of the top issues? Assume that I am a gamer and I stream and I do all sorts of things. What do I need to know? What challenges are there to my ability to do what I want to do coming from the government?
Well, if you're interested in the pro gaming community in particular, beyond just being a gamer, and you're interested in all of those issues, then that might skew what you'd be interested in from a government affairs perspective. So you might be more interested in net neutrality and the anti-streaming bill, for instance, because those are much more in that wheelhouse than they are for the average gamer. It affects everybody, obviously. However, if you're in the pro gaming community or just interested in it generally, then those two pieces of legislation would be more compelling.
Gotcha. Let's start with the casual gamer, because I do want to get some of the things you think that are of interest to them, if you don't mind. What would be one or two of those that are at the forefront right now?
Well, we have legislation and we have discounts and benefits that really appeal to everyone. So on the benefit side, we have relationships with Avis Rental Car and Hyatt Airlines. So if you're interested in going to Penny Arcade Expo, for instance, you're going to save a lot of money using your membership through us. On the legislative front, we pretty much cover everything that impacts gamers and gaming, and oftentimes that means working with the industry, sometimes not. But all of the pieces of legislation or all the actions that we're taking are sort of mutually beneficial to all gamers.
Let's dive into the esports chapter, because I think you're right to say that that's something we'd be deeply interested in. And I know you brought on one of the Halo professional players, Walshy, and talk a little bit about what sparked the idea to actually do an esports chapter and what the goals are with that chapter, and is it loosely organized, more formally organized? What's the status of that chapter right now?
Sure. The concept, I believe, was Dave's. So he and I had talked for the past couple of years and gotten to know each other better through our relationship with Red Bull, his and mine, respectively. And he was interested in getting more involved. And when the anti-streaming bill especially came up, he wanted to know more about it. And so we did a call, I think it was on a weekend, and I brought him up to speed on more specifics. And he was really blown away by the apathy that he's seeing from other organizations, companies that you would think would be really concerned about it because it's a good chunk of their business. And so I said, well, the problem isn't necessarily apathy. It's getting the word out and making sure that you get their attention, because there's an awful lot of messages being communicated, and we're a relatively small organization compared to them. And so he wanted to know what more he could do. And so that's kind of how we went down that road of establishing a chapter.
And as an esports fan and say a player who's either a professional or in that track, what should I do if I want to get involved? What would be my first steps to being a member of ECA? And outside of the advocacy, which I can read about and maybe help out, what other benefits would there be to me?
Well, we're going to be building out even more of the discounts around esports and people who are interested in them. So right now we have some pretty great discounts on like headsets and that sort of thing. And I can't say too much because we haven't released a lot of information yet. It's all just 1 month old. But we're essentially approaching companies and brands that are interested in being supportive of esports generally and want to message to that community in a meaningful way. And so a lot of those discounts are going to be more specific to people who are interested in pro gaming or just that community generally, where right now there's a fair amount already, but I'm going to try and add some more.
Gotcha. That's really good to hear. Well, I mean, I think we should spend a little bit of time on the anti-streaming bill. I know, Kurt, you've been very concerned about the anti-streaming bill, and I think knowing your state, you probably have a little bit of issues. So I'm going to let you hop in here, Kurt, because I think that's a really important topic. And if gamers knew more about it, I think just as Hal just said, they would be a little concerned. So, Kurt, take it away.
All right, so yeah, I mean, I live in North Carolina, so I have a senator in my state, Kay Hagan, who is actually, I believe, a co-sponsor of this bill, if I'm not mistaken, or in strong support of it at least. And I was just sort of wondering, I understand a lot about the quote unquote anti-streaming bill. But I'm wondering what possibly maybe others can do to help make sure this isn't passed. I mean, I think a lot of people, like Jerry said, if they understood what it really was, they wouldn't, definitely wouldn't want it around in our Senate by any means.
Yeah, sure. The real problem with the bill is that it's just worded too broadly. So it's not like, senators are sitting in a dark room conspiring against gamers. And it really doesn't even mention games in the language. And that's part of the problem. It was really Hollywood pushing for this piece of legislation that would alter existing laws in order to give them more influence and weight to being able to do things, both as intellectual property owners and then as well as the federal government in terms of criminalizing certain actions. And so all that was really concerning to us because it could encompass games. And in fact probably would encompass games simply because the language is so broad that it could, and therefore, if you leave open that door, someone's going to go through it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Now, what, like I was talking about, I know that, you guys at the ECA have, some national campaign, some things like that against the streaming bill. Is there anything else more specifically that gamers should specifically be doing to make sure this isn't passed?
Yeah, absolutely. Just today, actually, we got some of the social media bugs on the action pages. And just before we got on this call, I retweeted the message for that page. So if you're interested in just lending your voice to the campaign, you can go to that page and put in your information. It will automatically find out, who it should be targeted to in terms of your respective elected official. And then you can either write your own letter. We have custom letters that are up there expressing, displeasure about the bill and that it needs to be altered.
Gotcha. Yeah, I personally been making a few calls myself for the past few weeks, and those tools that you guys have are really perfect. I mean, they just pull up whoever you need to talk to immediately within your specific zip code, and sort of takes everything from there. So I really appreciate that.
I think also one of the big benefits to joining the ECA are some of the discounts, as you mentioned earlier. And I want to talk a little bit about those. I know the esports portion is fairly new, and you're working on doing a lot of great things there. So let's just focus on what currently exists that's for any gamer. What are some of the benefits there?
Actually, if you go to our website, there is a cross-section where they can click on the partner and benefits links, and they can see not all of them, because I think there's something like between 60 and 70 different discounts, and we have probably another 25 or 30 coming online relatively soon. So it's a really broad range, like I said, from like the travel kind of things that we talked about before to specifics on game rentals and purchases, discounts off of magazine subscriptions. You really we didn't really have anything to model off of for the UCA. The closest thing that we had was AAA or AARP, and they're so vastly different that just trying to model against those was challenging. And so we, as I said earlier, used a lot of the relationships that we had in order to be able to just get as much value as we could. So that ranges from games-related discounts, rental discounts, subscription discounts, premium subscription discounts, discounts off of events, shows, concerts, conferences. In some cases, it'll get members into events that otherwise they probably wouldn't be invited to. So if you're interested in the industry or getting a job in the business, all of that is there as well. We also have a job board called Game Jobs. So people can upload their resume and the system will email them whenever there's a match to the criteria that they put in.
So from discounts to actually having a job board where they're able to, for those that want to possibly work inside the gaming industry, the broad, large industry, and then also obviously the informative section about being able to learn about the news. There's also, you have a game industry directory with the calendar, right? Is that correct?
Yep. We also have a website called GamePolitics.com that covers all the legislative things that we've been talking about and sort of the intersection of law and games. And then a nightly newsletter, which is really popular, called ECA Today, that goes out weekdaily and to all members for free. And it really just encapsulates the day's news. So the editor goes around to different websites, many of them partner websites, and grabs the most compelling stories and puts them in a digestible format.
Yeah, I do actually get your newsletter, and to be honest, I think you do an excellent job of taking a broad sample. If anybody thinks the ECA newsletter is only about politics and gaming, I want to correct that misconception, because you've got a lot of game-relevant news that comes from a great many sources, and it actually is a pretty good synopsis, I have to say. So I personally find it really one of the few newsletters that gets my time is the ECA newsletter. So I think you guys do a really good job with that.
Thank you. I accept compliments on behalf of the editor, James Fudge, who does the phenomenal job. I have very little to do with it, but I'll pass along your compliments. Thank you.
Please do, because, you know, you pull from various sources and it's clearly it's relevant. That's the best way to say it. I think it's really good. So, Kurt, I'm going to turn it back to you. And I know, Jason, you've got some questions. I don't want to monopolize this. So, Kurt, I'll head it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. I suppose really you mentioned game politics, and I instantly sort of lit up, to be honest, because I absolutely love that website. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. Don't get me wrong, because I love learning about it, and to me, it's the only place you can go on the internet to learn about these issues, like consistently, at least, you know, on a day-to-day basis. It's in my bookmarks. I check it every day, and it really is a great website. And it's sort of coming from someone who actually, you know, I pay attention to politics probably more than I like to. And then to mix that in with gaming, it just works out perfect. But my question's kind of is a little bit of a farce of a question, but I wonder, you know, I would honestly be a tad bit depressed every once in a while if I had to, you know, write some of the articles that mix what is generally a very, very hardened community of politics, where it's just cutthroat and all kinds of, you know, corrupt things going on, and then mixing that in with one of, you know, what a lot of people consider, you know, many people's passion, which is gaming. What kind of obstacles have you guys had with that, in the sense of, you know, getting into that for more than, you know, or being in that as long as you guys have?
Well, I've been really fortunate in having really talented writers and staff. Frankly, they're like you. They're passionate about the subject matter. They care deeply about it. They enjoy writing about it, and, you know, moderating the comments and the shout box, and they're just a great group of guys. So I'm really fortunate to have them.
Yeah. I mean, I it's one of those things that I couldn't, like I said, I love visiting it, but I couldn't see myself doing it. You know, because mixing those two is just it would be hard for me to do. But please, pass along my thanks to people like them. Yeah.
I will do. It's an interesting intersection because, as you point out, you tend to get people who care very passionately on one side or the other. And so, prior to the ECA, I knew who Jack Thompson was, and we had just started trading barbs. But then once I was on the consumer side and involved with game politics, all of a sudden I was like number one on his email list for the longest time, up until just a year ago with disbarment. So that kind of level of passion and let's call it enthusiasm, can be really good if it's someone who's a gamer and supportive of our issues, and can be really bad if it's someone who's either ignorant of the facts or just sort of blind to them anyway, even once presented. And so that can be really challenging.
I most certainly couldn't even begin to imagine. So, and I watched, there's very relevant material out there for some of the stuff that you're seeing, like some of the, the games specifically about certain political issues, like, Darfur is dying and I Bail Out, and some really amazing games that people, I think in our community slowly start to realize that games don't necessarily have to be just about games, and games can sort of be a great, way to teach people things. So. And Game Politics is a really great website that points that out. So,
thank you. I think one of the important issues coming now, since we collectively were successful in winning the First Amendment case at the U.S. Supreme Court, that one of the next more challenging issues going forward is going to be digital rights. So the rights of consumers balanced against the rights of the intellectual property creators. And so we're not on one extreme and the industry's on another extreme. It's that we're actually close enough in order to be able to work together. The problem is that it's such a deep issue and so unwieldy that it's not anything that can be tackled quickly. So that only 2 years ago, I was invited to an FTC conference where they were talking about digital rights management and end-user license agreements, which are the click wraps that you agree to once you buy a game or DLC. And they were saying, how is it possible that we're going to be able to solve these problems? And I said, one step at a time. Essentially, how about first disclosing that there's DRM inside the game? The biggest problem for us as consumers is we go and buy the game, bring it home, take the wrapping off right there and then. You can't bring it back to the store. And then you load the game up and all of a sudden there's this DRM or an invasive, overreaching end-user license agreement. And you have to agree. If you don't agree, then you just wasted $60.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing that we're all dealing with as gamers nowadays. I want to kind of turn the focus a little bit back towards like the competitive gaming aspect. And I noticed that the ECA has partnered with quite a few brands that, as competitive gamers, we would be very familiar with. Things like, let's say, Astro and SteelSeries, even this VVV Gaming, Music Skins, who we've done quite a bit with in the past. Since we're looking to be having the ECA get more involved with esports as time goes on, will we be seeing any more partnerships with esports-focused communities? Things like, let's say, a Team Evil Geniuses or a Fnatic or a VVV Gaming or any of these, and going forward, what can these organizations do to help out the ECA as well?
Yes, the short answer to the question. You're going to be seeing a lot more partnerships. A fair number of them will also involve discounts on games-related things. We've reached out to, in addition to you guys, other groups that Dave primarily had suggested that we try and touch base with, and so far they've been pretty unilaterally accepting and saying, yeah, we're very interested in this, and we're so excited that there's going to be this esports chapter, and it'll focus more on our issues and being supportive of our community. So far it's been great. And then we also are getting advice from other pro gamers who are like, I just want to be more involved. How can I get more involved? And can I suggest these brands that you can talk to, or these companies? And we just take all that advice in, and that kind of gives us direction.
That's really cool. Could we ever possibly see EC out maybe at a competitive gaming event similar to like an MLG in the future? Would you be out checking us out in person soon?
Yeah, 4 of us are going to be at the Providence, so the next MLG event, and just attending and trying to get a better understanding of what's possible. And I believe that our marketing folks and their marketing folks just today, we're talking about what kind of relationship we would have for next year, just generally, and then what would be possible, if anything, for working together in lots of other ways.
Awesome. I think we look forward to meeting you at MLG Providence, because obviously VV Gaming will be in attendance, and I'll make some time on my calendar for us to sit and chat, because obviously these things are going to become more and more important, especially as competitive gaming continues to grow. And I think for us, the one advantage hopefully we can bring to you is that we sort of have this pulpit and these giant communities that we can reach out to and influence and get them mobilized, so they'll take whatever small action it is. I know you mentioned earlier using the discounts compared to AARP. I personally like political advocacy organizations that often have calls to action, whether it's a moveon.org or something equivalent on the conservative side of the scale, that gets people to contact their senators, do that, like Kurt mentioned about the anti-streaming bill. We're able to get that out there and hopefully mobilize them to take the 5 minutes or so to let their representatives know what we want and how we want them to vote. So I think that
really, really helpful.
I think that's something we can definitely do.
The politicians react really well to that. The last blast that we put out yielded so many signatures and letters that were generated that it sparked a conversation between our Vice President of Government Affairs and the Chief of Staff, who's sort of shepherding the bill. And so having that kind of direct conversation means that the door is not closed, and that if we continue keeping pressure on so that they know that their constituents care about this, then they'll remain open-minded about working with us and making some editing.
Hal, I know you're really busy, but before we let you go, we really have to, one more thing I really want to talk about, and that's the sponsorship opportunities that you guys are bringing at the ECA. Sponsorship dollars are the bread and butter to every organization in gaming. We're not there where we have more established revenue streams, so most of us have to monetize branded merchandise, advertising revenue, and obviously sponsorship dollars. And it sounds to me, from what I've read, you're really looking to help connect organizations and players with sponsors, and you've got a form and a place that people can sign up. So I would love to hear you tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, happy to. If the listeners go to theeca.com/pro_gaming, that's right now our main page that just explains generally what we're doing and how we're doing it. And toward the bottom, there's a link that will lead to an application form where gamers and teams could fill out the form and essentially submit for a sponsorship. While ECA doesn't do sponsorships individually, the idea is to really just create a database that would marry up those who are interested in getting sponsorships with brands who are interested in doing sponsoring.
I think also, I'm glad you said that, so it's really clear that when people apply, they understand that ECA is not going to be sponsoring anyone. It's going to be an opportunity to take organizations, look at their packages, and connect them with brands who you may have relationships with, or because of the type of advocacy you do, these consumer brands are looking for a certain demographic. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that brand managers in general, the people who are responsible for a brand's identity and for approaching different communities and market sectors, when they're interested in gaming, that's a really broad base of 55 million people. But when they're interested in professional gaming, competitive gaming, esports, well, that's really narrow. That's the very tip of the pyramid in the consumer construct. And so each brand for each different type of gum or soda or whatever, is interested in a very specific demographic. So one brand X, may be interested in a certain ethnicity, a certain age range, a certain urban versus suburban living. And so if a brand has much more information, like what they'll be able to get from the forum, then they'll have a lot more intelligence about how they go about sponsoring gamers and teams.
Yeah, I would just like to comment on this really quick. As a person, running an organization that is, like Jerry said, is sort of the, or not sort of the bread and butter right now for us. When it comes to sponsorships, one of the hardest things is not necessarily getting the materials together or getting a deck together or getting, sort of your, all your teams and players together. It's getting that contact information. It's getting the quote unquote in and knowing exactly what companies are looking for and then proving that you have that. So to me, the ECA, not just this service is perfect, but the ECA is perfect for it. It's an unbiased, unpartisan thing that you guys could, I think you guys, this is what we need. This is, I think, many people have talked about doing it before, and I think it's absolutely great. Let me ask you a question, though. What if you were personally suggesting to a organization, to a team, whoever looking for sponsorships, what would you think their first step should be, rather than just emailing or rather than immediately filling out the form? Do they have some more first steps to perform?
Yeah, that's more than fair. I would say treat it like you would treat anything else that's important to you and take it as seriously, because brand managers generally they tend to be younger, in their 20s and 30s. They tend to be pretty highly educated. They respect being treated that way themselves. And so if you go about tackling the form and just to get it in, we're just building the database. So there's really no land rush to get in. Being first isn't going to help you. Being professional, taking pride in authorship, and making sure you're doing a good job and that you're all on the same page if there's a team or organization, and then holding yourselves out the way that you want to be seen.
Amen and hallelujah. Yeah, no, I completely agree, and that, and one of the other things that I'm sort of mulling around with and wondering. You were talking about, people, being very passionate about it and sort of taking their time with it. I'm wondering also what gaming sometimes, when talking to outside companies, tends to have this sort of stigma. More specifically, pro gaming. Has the ECA encountered that at all? Have you not been in it long enough as far as the pro gaming scene to really know yet? Or what's your question there? Are you encountering any of that stigma that we're hearing?
The only instance that I've seen recently was there was coverage on one of the major gaming websites about the most recent Red Bull LAN, and it was a really thorough piece and I think very fair on all sides. And I don't normally read comments, just generally, to articles, but it was pointed out to me afterwards that maybe you should go back and read the comments, and some of them were really derogatory and ignorant. And whether you're interested in professional gaming and esports or not, I think one of the first things that we need to be is not stereotyping and pigeonholing ourselves and just being supportive of each other, because there's enough of that other stuff going on all the time that we just don't need more of it.
Yeah, that I completely agree with, and I find that as well in some of the mainstream gaming websites specifically. I don't understand it, me personally, coming from someone that's been so passionate about competitive gaming and esports for years now. I don't imagine how anyone that's compassionate about gaming couldn't be compassionate about esports. But what about companies that you might be working with? Is there any stigma there? Is there anything, that companies sort of are, very, very wary about getting into maybe what they might consider a volatile community?
No, I don't think so. I think there's just not enough awareness out there about pro gaming generally. So when we did the announcement earlier this year that we were partnering with Red Bull on a promotion for underwritten memberships that they were providing, that really opened up a whole new world for us with brands and a whole relationship with brands that had only really been slowly working before that. And I had that, the form that we've been talking about, done, I think it was a year ago in January. And it's just been sitting there online. And one day, Zach Weigel from Gamers Outreach noticed it and got in touch with me and said, this is great. Are there tons of brands that are really interested? And I said, well, there are some, but really it wasn't until the Red Bull partnership in May, June, that time frame, that all of a sudden we popped up on a lot of major brands' minds as an alternative. Like, hey, we can work with these folks, and there's this thing called pro gaming, and can they teach us about it, and how can they help us with it? And so it's just become part of a larger repertoire for us.
Yeah, that I got to tell you, someone that has been asking for something like this, as far as someone that is unbiased, not necessarily in the competitive gaming community, and has this amazing business experience to connect some organizations and teams and players with sponsors and companies that are looking for people to support. I absolutely love the idea, and I applaud you guys for doing it.
Thank you very much. It's probably also important for your community to know that the unbiased angle is sort of throughout. So it's with partners, it's going to be with pro gamers and teams, and we just see ourselves in a capacity of being able to help. So the forum doesn't involve anything financial. There's no relationship that's there between us and pro gamers or teams, other than being supportive.
Let me ask you one last question, and I'm gonna throw it back to Jerry because I know Jerry has a follow-up question. And this might be you honestly might not know, and so I apologize if you don't. But I'm just kind of curious because I know that you guys are just now getting this chapter started. So what I'm kind of curious about is here recently in esports we've seen this kind of explosion with StarCraft 2. There were, of course, a lot of games in our past that have done amazing, but StarCraft 2 has really lit a fire under for the community, and we've also seen a jump in companies getting into to esports, including lifestyle companies like Visine and some really big companies like Red Bull for one. Have you personally or the ECA seen that explosion more specifically for StarCraft 2 now, or is it something that you just think it's going to be for all competitive games eventually?
I think it's much more the latter. Usually when I'm talking with brand managers or our VP marketing Heather is talking with them, or Mike, our sales guy, they're really not aware of competitive gaming generally, and so they really want help. They want to learn more. They want to understand what the opportunities are. They want to see how is this different than the general advertising campaigns that we're running on the major websites, and how do we connect better with people in the community generally, and then with the professional gamers and teams.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's incredibly interesting, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily see the same things that you do as far as talking with those brand managers and things like that. All right, Jerry, I'm gonna pass it back to you, but I know you got some questions.
Thanks, Kurt. No, Hal, I know it's getting late. My final question for you is I want to give you an opportunity to give some shout outs or throw out any last thing you have, maybe some key staff people, or a final call to action for our listeners.
I think you probably heard me sort of pepper the conversation with different staffers who are responsible for a lot of the success that we have. So I try to give praise where praise is due, and I think I accomplished most of that. I mean, our website redesign is attributable to Mike and that team. I already told that Jen and the government affairs, government relations team, Heather and Valerie in marketing. We're a relatively small nonprofit, so it's really all about teamwork and having common goals and working together and the real basics. as far as call to action, it's just the ECA, so THEECA.com. And you can learn more generally there. And if you're interested in the pro gaming page in particular, it's ECA.com/pro_gaming.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Hal from the ECA. Go to the website, sign up, get involved. There are a lot of things that affect you. To other gaming organizations and teams out there, the esports section has a link for sponsorship opportunities. Get in that database so that we can start empowering the ECA to connect brand managers with some of the organizations and players that might be able to add real value to those brands, and in the end, bring sponsorship opportunities to these organizations. Hal, I want to thank you so much for making time out of your busy day to come on to the Losers Bracket, and I look forward to us hopefully inviting you again on soon so we can catch up and see what's new.
Thank you so much for having me, and the questions were really amazing, so thank you for taking the time.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.